Who said 8 a.m.? Question mark. It's 7 a.m. on this beautiful Sunday morning. Greetings and salutations, everyone. My name is Andrew Kirchhoff, and welcome to our Week 11 Sunday morning live stream. Is someone sitting in Arizona saying 8 a.m.? Question mark. Listen, it's 7 a.m. It's bright and early, and we're talking all things fantasy football in regards to Week 11. Now, of course, as we progress throughout the next 3 hours, answering questions up until kickoff of Week 11, understand that, again, we're trying to answer any and all questions. By doing so, we have the rankings that are up to date on screen to the right side. As you guys can see, we have the updated top 36 running backs, wide receivers, top 16 quarterbacks, and tight ends, along with the top 12 kickers and defenses going into this week. Yes, I get it. It's 9 a.m. on the East Coast. Joel, listen, guys, we got to all lock it in, okay? You guys are acting really weird so far, okay? We've only just started the stream a minute ago, and y'all are bugging. So let's lock it in. Thank you for the happy birthday wishes. Let's continue on answering all these questions. If you have any questions interpositionally, these rankings right here, they're going to answer them. Outside of this, of course, we're going to progress by answering these questions. Earlier today, there was a report that George Kittle is most likely not going to play. So I'm going to mention this now, and I'm probably mention this, 100 times after I mention it right now. George Kittle plays at 1 p.m. PST. So that is 6 hours from this current moment. Therefore, if we're going to be in a position in which we believe he is not going to play, there's a reason why I do not have him ranked here anymore. He is off of this list. I have subsequently increased the rankings of Deebo Samuel, Jawan Jennings, and Ricky Pearsall to compensate for his absence, which is expected to be the case. If in somehow, some way he does end up playing, despite the fact that the reports have come out that he is unlikely to play, if he plays, you play him. And then you would adjust in the afternoon slate, okay? So I'm just going to assume, based on the reports that I have read, he's probably not going to play. Therefore, let's get into beginning to answer questions. Again, for those of you guys who are Patreon members, the rankings have already been posted as of 1 a.m. Earlier this morning. And for those of you who have signed up using code Andrew via Underdog, again, if you are on that email list as of last night prior to midnight, that email has been sent out. Make sure you check your spam folder and take care of that. All right. Outside of that, let's get into answering some questions, shall we? First question of the day begins with Matthew 1031, who says, "Good morning. In a full PPR pick 2 between Josh Downs, Cedric Tillman, Shakir, and Chubb. In a full PPR, the two best of the four would be Cedric Tillman and Khalil Shakir by far and away." Thank you very much, Matthew. Good luck this weekend. All right, moving on to the next question from Clarence O, who says, "One for the flex, BTJ estimate, Johnston, Waddle in a half PPR. Of those available, the highest ranked player I have of that group in a half PPR, which will eventually pop up on screen in regards to wide receivers here, is going to be Jalen Waddle. I don't want to play BTJ nor estimate in that circumstance. It's going to be between Quentin Johnston and Waddle. If Johnston scores a touchdown, he'll probably be the higher scorer of the two, which again, that should be a shootout, but I'm gonna trust Waddle. I'm gonna trust Waddle ever so slightly in that scenario, so I'll take Waddle there. Thank you. Trey sends in a question, says start 3 in a full PPR. London/Surtain, which again is not going to be the case, but okay. Sutton, JT, Kenneth Walker. Okay, so just really quickly, everybody needs to understand. Drake London has 50, well actually no, it's more like 55 to 60% of his overall workload in terms of snaps, in terms of routes ran, in terms of receptions, have been conducted within the slot position this season. So I want everyone to understand that the narrative of London versus Surtain for the entire game is not a reality. Understand that it is going to be a lot of Mooney taking on Surtain, and then there will be some instances in which London will play out wide because he does over the course of a game. And when he does, yes, he'll see Surtain at times. But otherwise, his value is not completely diminished because of the one singular cornerback, because he will move around the formation consistently as he does every single week. Now, as for the available players that you've mentioned and who I'd like to play, still, I'm going to take let me see here. If I go and pull up my full PPR, Sutton is a for sure play there. That's not even in question in regards to your question, Trey. So it's just a matter of Kenneth Walker versus London and so as of right now, the way I have it would be Sutton, JT, and London. Those are the 3 plays that I suggest, Trey. Kenneth Walker is about 3 spots below Drake London in a full PPR. That's how I have it ranked. Thank you. Moving on to a question from Eric Sanchez. Thank you, Eric. Eric says, Russell Wilson or Tua? I prefer to play Russell Wilson. Thank you. Playing against Saquon Barkley, need upside? Yeah, as of right now, I would still play Russell Wilson in that circumstance. Again, the issue with Tua Tagovailoa is that the offense, especially when they get down into the red zone, they are very much so a run-heavy team. unless he was going to completely air it out and find, 3 touchdowns from deep passing attempts to Waddle, to a Johnny Smith, to hopefully Tyreek Hill, which again, these are hoping things. I mean, these aren't a matter of like, we can guarantee it anymore. It used to be a guarantee in the past within the Dolphins offense, as late has not been. So I'm going to lean towards playing Russell Wilson in this circumstance. Moving on to Martin Miller, who sends in a question, says, pick 2 in a full PPR. Jennings, Downs, Mooney, or Higgins? Yeah, okay. So as it currently stands, Jennings and Higgins are the 2 best plays that you have available there. Thank you. All right, moving on to a question. We had another one from Martin Miller as a follow-up. Says, pick 2.5 PPR, Dowdle, Pearsall, Stevenson, and Dobbs. As of those players in a half PPR, under the assumption that we're going to have a missing Kittle, I would play Stevenson alongside of Pearsall. Now, in the event in which Kittle does end up being active, let me just see the schedule of the NFL Week 11 slate just to see when the Cowboys play. So Cowboys play on Monday. So this is the way that I would go about it, Mark Miller. For your second question, I want to play Stevenson first and foremost, and then it's either going to be Dowdle or Pearsall. You would play Pearsall in the event that this upcoming afternoon, George Kittle is 100% designated out. If he is out, you play Pearsall. If he is not out and somehow does end up playing today, by the will of his hamstring, holding it together, then you would try to opt for playing Dowdle on Monday night. Thank you, Martin. Appreciate it. All right, moving on. We had a question from Shackle Free. Where is Shackle? Let's see. Shackle, you're going to have to retype your question. There's nothing in the live chat. All I see is Shakir. That's the only SHA word that keeps popping up on the search function. Thank you. Alrighty. Then we move on to a question from Chico Man 831, who says, Knicks or Allen? Yeah, I'd rather play Josh Allen. And then for your follow-up, which 2? BTJ, Shakir, Cooper, non-PPR. Yeah, even in a non-PPR, I'll take... Yeah, basically, I'm going to suggest, Chico Man, that you play all 3 Buffalo Bills. You play Josh Allen, you play Khalil Shakir, and Amari Cooper. Thank you. Lana sends in a question, says, see chat for questions. Sounds good, Lana. Thank you. All right, let's see here. All right, so again, if you guys are going to send in a question, and then it's subsequently going to be a, hey, Andrew, check the live chat in order to see the question, you're going to have to be pretty consistent on retyping that in and hoping that you don't get auto-moderated out because of a spam. So again, Lana, you're going to join the list along with Shackle in terms of people who need to type in their question once again into the live chat, because since starting the live stream, or since you've sent that in, the chat has fluctuated and updated so often thus far that unfortunately I don't see your message in the chat. I do see Shackle now, so hopefully, Lana, you can go ahead and type that in. Okay, Shackle 06 says, good morning, Andrew. Desperate for upside after Thursday in a half PPR Superflex, currently starting Hunt over Chubb and Montgomery, but I see Jameis and May can be added on the waivers. Please analyze. Okay, so if you're talking about potentially playing either Jameis Winston or Drake May over Nick Chubb in a Superflex. Okay, let's see here. Let me just see how I have it. Like, I just need to go see what the projected number is for both these players. What is your scoring format again, Shackle? Let me see here. Half PPR? Okay. So I just need to go and open up my other tab here. Open up this other Excel sheet, and I need to figure out whether or not the projections are even remotely close to consideration. Okay, so... Okay, and then I need to go here, and I need to go... Yeah, okay, so as it currently stands, if you're playing in a half PPR, I would rather play Jameis Winston. Okay, that's the way that I'd go about it. So in your scenario, shackle-free, yes, I would swap, and I would actually play a quarterback in that super flex position. I would play I would play Jameis Winston there over Kareem Hunt this week. Thank you. Alrighty, we took care of that question, and then we will hope for Lana to type in that one. Until then, we'll continue answering questions. Let me scroll back up here. Do appreciate y'all's patience on the matter. Continuing on, we had Nathan Dennison with a question. Thank you, Nathan. Nathan says, pick one in the flex, full PPR, Nakua, Chubb, or Jacobs. In a full PPR scoring format, I'm playing Puka Nakua this week, number 1. Jacobs would be 2. Chubb would be 3. That is the order in which I rank them as it currently stands, and that's how I would approach. Thank you. Grant sends in a question. It says PPR start 2, Aaron Jones, Jacoby Myers, JSN, ETN, and Najee Harris. In a full PPR scoring format, I have no interest in playing either ETN or Najee Harris, so it's just between Aaron Jones, Jacoby Myers, and JSN. In a full PPR scoring format, I do have Jacoby Myers and Aaron Jones as the 2 highest ranked of the three. Thank you. Alex Songgrass sends in the question. Says standard, start 2, Adams, Tillman, Ridley, Cook, Myers. Full PPR, trade Downs for Otton. I would be willing to trade Downs for Otton. Again, looking at your wide receiver depth, you can afford to do so, especially if you're looking for tight end upside for the remainder of the season after the Tampa Bay Buccaneers come off of their bye. So yes, I would make that trade, especially with the Anthony Richardson return. I think the overall upside of Downs is significantly lower in terms of the overall opportunity share and the effectiveness at the quarterback position. So getting back to your question, in a standard league in which we're starting 2 of these potential players, considering you're getting 0 points per reception in a standard format, well, I don't know actually if it's because when you say standard start 2, is it actually a standard format? Okay, let's say, for example, it's a standard format. James Cook will play alongside of Tillman in that scenario. Under the assumption that it's a full PPR scoring format, at that point, I would suggest to play Adams and Tillman. Thank you, Alex. Appreciate it. Alan Moore sends in a question. Alan, thank you very much. Says PPR, flex Pearsall, Pollard, or Estimate. In a full PPR, under the assumption that George Kittle was not to play, I would probably play Pearsall there. But let me see when the Tennessee Titans do end up playing today. They play in the morning? Yeah. So at that point, if it's me, I probably just play Pearsall and I roll with the safe there. Well, actually, it's not that technically. That's not the safe option. The safe option would actually be to go with Pollard because of the uncertainty as to whether or not Kittle will play. Now, my assumption is that he won't play because I don't really often see reports come out that say, hey, a player is unlikely to play, and then they end up playing. It's like giving a player the doubtful tag and then expecting them to roll out there. So as of right now, I would say that the safe route is Pollard. Otherwise, the way that I would do it for my team is I would roll with Pearsall there. Thank you. Chris Allin sends in a question. Says full PPR, start 2 wide receivers, 2 running backs, and 1 flex. We have Jefferson, Sutton, we have Addison, we have Flowers, Montgomery, Hunt, ETN, Estimate, and Najee Harris. Okay. So of your 2 wide receivers, 2 running backs, and 1 flex, the 2 starting running backs for this week are Montgomery and Hunt. The 2 starting wide receivers for this week are obviously going to be Jefferson and Sutton. And then within your flex, considering the full PPR format, you're going to play Zay Flowers. Thank you, Chris Allin. Appreciate it. Cameron Kaplan sends in a question. Says, drop 1 for a kicker. J.K. Dobbins, Brian Robinson, Tracy, Dell Otton. Depends on what other tight ends you have on roster. If you were to tell me, hey, Andrew, I have Travis Kelce already, I would say, all right, we're dropping Cade Otton. But if you were to tell me, Andrew, I've got stud wide receivers across the board, I don't even use Tank Dell, then that's who I'm dropping instead. If you told me, hey, Andrew, like I'm using Tucker Kraft this week, but in the future, Cade Otton will most likely be my starter, then at that point, I'd like to keep Otton. But I'm not dropping any of those 3 running backs. It's either between Dell or Otton, and it's very much so dependent on what your current tight end starter is, and going forward, whether you have a potential other option there. Let's say you have Evan Ingram, who has a bye week next week. You want to keep Otton on roster rather than keep Dell, right? Okay, Cameron, thank you. Fantasy Football Girl sends in a question. Says CeeDee Lamb or Marquez Valdez-Scantling. Okay, so here's the situation, and there is a tricky one at hand here. So under the assumption that CeeDee Lamb is hopefully going to play, he is by far and away, in my opinion, a better play than Marquez Valdez-Scantling. Less risk implied because, again, there's more of a target share on the side of CeeDee Lamb. I know that yesterday afternoon when we were live streaming here on the channel, he did pop up on the injury report in terms of a potential, he may, he's questionable, he's dealing with a back injury, all that kind of jazz. Okay. So under the assumption we are going to be in a situation this week where he does end up playing on Monday night, which again, he gets another day of rest. Hopefully he'll be ready there. He is the preferred of the 2. Now, again, is there a possibility that we could get to tomorrow and he doesn't end up playing? I guess there's a possibility of it. I think it's a really low chance that occurs, though. So as of right now, I would just suggest playing CeeDee Lamb. Thank you. All right, let me see if Lana had sent in a question. There you go. Lana says, start 1 wide receiver and 1 flex out of Flowers, Sutton, Tillman, Montgomery. Okay, cool. Or drop 1 of them for Jennings since Kittle is out. Also, of those wide receivers, pick 2 for rest of season. Thanks. Okay. So, multifaceted question. In regards to, I don't know what your scoring format is, but under the assumption you play in any sort of, actually it does matter. Let's say you play in a full PPR. If you do play in a full PPR, I'm playing Cortland Sutton and Tillman. If you play in a half PPR, I'm playing Cortland Sutton and Montgomery. If you play in a standard, I'm playing Cortland Sutton and Montgomery. Okay, so that's the way that I go about that first and foremost, Lana. Then your next question, am I picking up Jennings and playing him over any of those options? No, I'd rather have all 4 of those options in comparison. And then for the final question, of those wide receivers, pick 2 for rest of season. The rest of season wide receiver, pick 2 for rest of season out of those 4 potential options. Cortland Sutton and Flowers would have to be the preferred as of right now. because they have been the most consistent or have done the most as of the entire course of the season, while Tillman still has more to prove as we continue on. Thank you. Alrighty. Again, for those of you who are joining us this morning, welcome. Hope you guys are doing well on this wonderful Sunday for week 11. Again, as of right now, the way that this works, the rankings right here are up to date as of this morning. So you do not see George Kittle as my number 2 tight end, even though that was the case earlier this week. As the week has progressed, we've gotten into a situation in which, of course, George Kittle is expected to not play. With that taken into account, I've already adjusted for it. So if that is a question that you have in mind or you're thinking of, where is George Kittle? Understand that that is a reality of the situation, that he may in fact not play once we get to the 1 p.m. window of games PST. Thank you. Okay, continuing to answer questions here. Let me go back into the chat. We had a question from G Medina. Thank you very much, Medina. Says half PPR at the flex, Tillman or Jennings with Kittle out. Even with Kittle out, I would rather play Tillman this week. Thank you. Nick Gonzalez sends in a question. Says D-Hop or Chubb in a full PPR. I'd much rather play D-Hop. Already have Tillman starting, or should I shift? No, you should leave Tillman in there and you should play D-Hop on top of it. Thank you. Josh Holt sends in a question. Thank you, Josh. Says, happy Sunday, Andrew. Higgins or Devontae Adams? I'd rather play Devontae Adams this week. After he got the full clear of, obviously he was questionable this week with, he was dealing with an illness, and then also he had a wrist injury, which is funny. There's a consistent pattern of veteran wide receivers by the name of Devontae Adams, Amari Cooper, and Tyreek Hill, who are all dealing with, wrist injuries, which for the life of me, I don't remember a last time we have consistently seen wide receivers dealing with wrist injuries. I don't know what this is, but it's very interesting. Either way, I'm playing Adams there over Higgins. Thank you. All right, Eber sends in a question. Eber de la Hoya says, in a half PPR, flex Pop Douglas or Dawson Knox? In a half PPR, I'd rather play Dawson Knox. Thank you. Bubblegum Cowboy sends in a question. Says, Swift, Anthony Richardson, Pearsall, Superflex spot. In a full PPR, I would play Anthony Richardson there. I'd play Anthony Richardson in the Superflex over Pearsall and Swift. Thank you. Chris T sends in a question. Says, Jaden Reed, Hawkinson, Rico, Amari, or Dell in the flex. Let me see where okay, Chris, it depends on scoring format, but I'll check both of the formats just so I can confirm. So where do I have Reed in comparison in a half PPR? Okay. So there's that. Okay. So this is the way that I currently have it structured. I would take Reed in a half, but I would play Hawkinson in a full. So Reed would actually play in a standard and a half PPR. Hawkinson's the preferred full PPR because of the reception count. Thank you. All right, moving on to a question from German Primetime. Thank you very much. It says, PPR, please pick 2 between Swift, Adams, Jennings, and Tillman. I'll play Adams and I will play Tillman. Thank you. Gog sends in a question. It says, PPR, start 1 running back, 1 wide receiver, and 2 flex. My wide receivers are BTJ, Kupp, DJ Moore, and Tank Dell. My running backs are Nick Chubb, Najee Harris, and Estime. Okay. So of the available players you have, at running back, I'm playing Nick Chubb. At wide receiver, I am playing Cooper Kupp. At the 2 flex spots, I probably end up playing Tank Dell let me see, where's BTJ in comparison to Najee Harris in my full PPR rankings? Brian Thomas. Yeah, he's ahead of him. So the way that I'd go about it, German Primetime. Sorry, no, this is Gog's question. My bad. Gog, Nick Chubb, Cooper Kupp, BTJ, Tank Dell. Thank you. All right. Let's see here. Annie Mert sends in a question. Annie Mert says, Rico Dowdle or Jamison Williams in the flex, half PPR and half point per first down. Well, okay, half point per first down is a little bit of a tricky conversation to have, but in terms of a half PPR between those two, between Dowdle and Jamison Williams, I have Dowdle as the preferred. I'd assume he's probably more capable of getting first downs as well, considering his running back. Any short down situation would probably lead to a first. So as of right now, Rico Dowdle is my suggestion. Thank you, Animer. Justin M sends in a question. Says PPR, Juwan Jennings or DeAndre Swift. I'd rather play Juwan Jennings. Thank you. Mike Kelly sends in a question. Says Dobbs or Madison in a half PPR. Thanks. Let me see where I have Madison in comparison. As it currently stands, where the heck is Dobbs? Okay. Is this a half PPR? It is. Okay. As it currently stands, I have Romeo Dobbs ahead of him. Thank you. Andy Wardlaw sends in a question. Thank you, Andy. Says, set my lineup. We have Debo, Tillman, Hunt, McCaffrey, Jacobs, Higgins, Ridley, Mooney, Addison. We need 2 wide receivers, 2 running backs, and 1 flex and a full PPR. Okay. So of the available options you have, at running back, Christian McCaffrey is your RB1, alongside of Josh Jacobs as your RB2. Within the wide receiver conversation, Deebo Samuel is your wide receiver 1, and then you follow up with Tillman as your wide receiver 2. And then within the flex position between pretty much Higgins or Hunt, let me see where I have them ranked in a full PPR. Let's look up where Higgins is. Higgins is 2 spots below Hunt, so Hunt would be your flex play, Andy Wardlaw. So again, from the top to the bottom, it is McCaffrey, Jacobs, Deebo, Tillman, and Hunt. Thank you, Andy. Appreciate it. Idris sends in a question. Says, with Kittle out, who should I start, Taysom Hill or Dawson Knox? Again, the rankings are right here on screen. Updated as of this morning. So as it currently stands, in a half PPR scoring format, which it'll eventually kind of filter through, Taysom Hill is 1 spot behind Dawson Knox. Again, at that point, it's kind of up to your prerogative as to who you believe is going to outscore one another. As of my declaration of the rankings on screen, I prefer to have Dawson Knox on roster and starting this week between the 2 of them. Thank you very much, Idris. Appreciate it. Moving on to Drew Schlesinger, who says, are we still starting Tillman over London? Okay. Here's the thing. As the week has progressed, I don't want to be too invested in the total omega upside of Tillman, because if Tillman doesn't score a touchdown, we could be in trouble. So at that point, I just roll with London. Let's just go safe with it. Let's just roll with Drake London at the moment. Half PPR or full PPR, doesn't matter to the format. So Drew, I'd play London there if it was me. Thank you. All right. Kamani sends in a question. Kamani, thank you very much. Says, in a half PPR, which 2 should I start out of Aaron Jones, Brian Thomas Jr., and Amari Cooper, James Cook? So Aaron Jones, Brian Thomas Jr., or Amari Cooper, James Cook. So if I had to pick one of the duos to play this week, I would rather have the Amari Cooper and James Cook duo. But if I could pick 2 of the 4, I want to play Aaron Jones and James Cook because those are the 2 most valuable options there. Amari Cooper would be 3rd and Brian Thomas would be 4th. Now, as for your next question, Kamani, says, and for the tight end, Tucker, Kraft, or Hawkinson? Yeah, I'd much rather play Hawkinson there. So Hawkinson is my primary suggestion in terms of tight end. As for the 2 duo player, the running back wide receiver duos you mentioned, the Cooper James Cook one is preferred, but if you can somehow, some way end up playing Aaron Jones and James Cook because it's a flex position and you can play them both, then that's the way we would go about it. Thank you very much. Ryan sends in a question. Ryan Luckin says, right now I'm playing Love at quarterback and Evan Ingram at tight end. Should I trade Estimate or Ferguson on my bench for Russell Wilson in QB1 for 1 week? Seems risky. Yeah, I don't think it's worth it. I'd rather just play Jordan Love. I mean, like if you're in a win now scenario, you can certainly, approach it in which you're moving Estimate and or Ferguson in order to accomplish this. I don't think it's necessary. I think the separation of value between the 2 isn't as significant to where I'm making a trade in order to make it happen. So if I was in your position, Ryan Luckin, I would just keep it as is. Just roll with Jordan Love and Evan Ingram. Again, trading away Ferguson when you'll need him next week is probably not the best plan of action. So you would have to move Estimate under the assumption that, again, you don't need him for the future weeks because of you have enough running back depth that is ample going forward. You could theoretically do the trade, but I don't think it's a necessity as of right now for you this week. Thank you. All right, we move on to a question that came in from Adam Stratton, who says, hey, Andrew, big fan. Do I drop Brooks for Bucky? Yes, absolutely. Drop Jonathan Brooks, pick up Bucky Irving, and thank yourself in about 3 weeks from now after you are dominating teams getting into the fantasy playoffs. Thank you. Bugs19 sends in a question, says 1 point per reception, Mostert or Christian Watson, Mike Williams, Alec Pierce. Out of all those options, I'll probably just prefer to play Christian Watson in this scenario. Christian Watson 1, probably Alec Pierce 2, and then Mike Williams 3. That's the order at which I would proceed with those potential options. Firestone Production sends in a question, says questions in the chat. All right, Firestone, hopefully it is available there and it is not disappeared. Okay, Firestone, you're going to need to do me a favor and retype your question. I'm going to add you to the list. If you can, type in your question now so that I can get to it. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Okay. While we wait for Firestone to type that out, we will continue on answering questions. We have one that comes in from Grant as a follow-up. Grant says, PPR start 1. Okay, so we have Butte, we have Bateman, we have McLeod, and we have Elijah Moore. Okay, let me see where I have Elijah Moore in comparison to Bateman, because those are the 2 valuable, or at least the two most valuable of the 4 that you've mentioned. As of right now, in a full PPR, Yeah, in a full PPR, I'd play Elijah Moore. In a half PPR, I'd play Bateman there. But those are the two highest ranked as I currently have it in a full PPR. Grant, thank you. All right, let's see here. Let's see. What do we have? Okay, Reese had sent in a question. Reese, nothing attached to it. It's gonna be kind of hard to find your name in the live chat because you spell your C with such a weird accent next to it, but hopefully you'll find it. Okay, Sir Vancelot sends in a question. It says start 2. Ingram, Njoku, ETN, Dowdle in the PPR. Thanks. If I'm starting 2 of those 4, I'm playing both tight ends. Give me Ingram and give me Njoku this week. Thank you. All right, Reese, I see your question in the live chat. I was able to find it. It says, hey, Andrew, you helped me earlier this week, but I want to see if anything has changed. In my flex, should I play Kenneth Walker, Debo Samuel, Hall, or Hill? My lineup is Henry, Amon-Ra, Pickens, and Kupp. Got it. So the question is, what is your scoring format, Reese? That is the primary question, which I don't see you mentioning it anywhere. So I'm just going to try to answer it in both formats just to kind of help you to the best of my ability. You have K9, Debo, Hall, and Hill. K9, Debo, Hall, Hill. Okay. So as it currently stands, in a full PPR flex format, is anybody ahead of Hill? Debo. Debo is the highest ranked in both formats, half or full PPR. Reese. So that would be your flex. That would be my suggestion. Your primary flex would be Debo number 1, half or full PPR. Or if even it's a standard scoring format, at that point, I'd be comfortable rolling with Debo. Thank you. All right, moving on. Let's see if Firestone ended up typing anything in the live chat. Firestone, where are you at? No? Nothing? Firestone? No? Okay. Continuing on, we'll come back and see if Firestone later on in the live stream ends up typing anything in the live chat. Appreciate it. Moving on to R Gold 9, who says PPR trade. Kupp, Bucky, Brian Thomas Jr., 4 Neighbors, and Walker. The only... I'm going to be totally on... that one's a tough one. If it was me, I would rather have Kupp and Bucky rest of season in comparison to Neighbors Walker. I'm going to be totally honest there. That's the way that I go about it. So in a full PPR R Gold, I would keep the Kupp and Bucky side. Thank you. Akuma187 sends in a question, says, good morning. Andrew, question is in the chat. All right, Akuma, I'm going to hope that I immediately see it there. If I do not, then I'm going to... There it is. I'm going to ask you to type it in, but you just typed it in. I appreciate that. Thank you. All right. So, Akuma, 10-team full PPR, 2 flex spots, no tight end. Says, what's going on, bro? Which 2 of the following should I flex? Dobbins, Njoku, Waddle, Dowdle, or Warren? On the waivers, there's Pearsall, Bateman, and Dobbs. Yeah, look, as of right now, of the available options you have, I'm playing Dobbins and I'm playing Njoku. I don't need to go pick up any potential options off waivers. The ones that you have on roster as it currently stands, Njoku and Dobbins are the 2 best as of right now, Akuma. Thank you. All right, Reese had said full PPR. Yeah, we're still going to play Debo there as of right now, Reese. Thank you. All right, we move on to a question that comes in from DK Ellie the 4th. Or is that the... No, I think that is the 4th. It says full PPR, estimate or Pearsall? I'd rather play Pearsall in a full PPR. Thank you. Rogo sends in a question. Says, good morning, broski. Do I have a winning squad for week 11? We have Bo Nix, Debo Samuel, Cortland Sutton, Gibbs, David Montgomery, Jonnu Smith, Chubb, Moody, Detroit's defense. My bench consists of Swift, Amari Cooper, Higgins. Do I play Higgins over any of these options? I mean, as of right now, if I was in your position, Rogo, I'm playing Higgins over Chubb in the flex. That's my primary suggestion as of right now. Mainly because of that overall upside of a shootout. Any sort of PPR format in comparison, like Nick Chubb's going to have to require that he falls into the end zone to be able to outscore a player of the caliber of Higgins as of right now. So Higgins would be the preferred as of that flex this week. And that's the way that I go about it. As for the rest of your team being solid, it is. And again, the only reason you win or lose weeks in fantasy is whether your players score touchdowns. If you go throughout the entire season and you just go specifically look at every week and every matchup you guys have played in, just go count how many touchdowns your team scored in comparison to your opponent. I guarantee you, whoever scores the most touchdowns typically is, the one catching the victory by the end of the week. Thank you. Carlos sends in a question. Says, full PPR, pick 2. Cedric Tillman, T. Higgins, Juwan Jennings in a full PPR. Okay, so In a full PPR, I have Juwan Jennings in my... Okay, so there we go. Let's go check where I have him. Okay, so in a full PPR scoring format, I have it as Juwan Jennings and Cedric Tillman as the 2 highest ranked. That's the way that I go about it there, Carlo. So in a full PPR, it would be Cedric Tillman and Juwan Jennings over T. Higgins. Thank you. Sven Dragon sends in a question, says 0.25 PPR, ETN or Juwan Jennings. At that point, I'd still be comfortable going with Juwan Jennings there. Thank you. Michael Ortiz sends in a question, says 6 points per throwing touchdown. With Kittle out, are we still leaning towards Purdy over Burrow? I'm still comfortable rolling with Purdy there. If you want to play Burrow, I don't have an issue with it at all. They're both within the same tier of my overall quarterbacks in a 6 point per passing touchdown, approach and format. I could justify playing Burrow over Purdy, and I can absolutely see why you would want to go about doing so. Mainly because, again, of the return of T. Higgins and how well Burrow has played as of late. But I'm still comfortable going with Purdy there. I had the option to potentially change the rankings on screen. I'm still very much so comfortable with Purdy over Burrow. Thank you. Make Music sends in a question, nothing attached to it. Hopefully it is in the chat. Let's see if Firestone ended up typing anything at any point. Nope. Okay, so Fire is done. So we're going to erase that and we'll go ahead and see what Make Music has to say. Make Music, do me a favor and type in the live chat when you get a chance. Thank you. Again, for those of you who are joining us this morning, welcome. Good morning for this wonderful week 11. The rankings that are right here are updated as of this morning. Again, these are my updated half PPR, 4 point per passing touchdown rankings for my top 36 running backs, as you can see. Top 36 wide receivers in 15 seconds from now. Then top 16 quarterbacks, tight ends, top 12 kickers, and defenses. If you have any questions, so like I see someone asking Russell Wilson or Bo Nix, right? The rankings will be on screen. If somebody asks, hey, do I play Jonathan Taylor or Aaron Jones? It's on screen. Somebody says Garrett Wilson or Zay Flowers, it is on screen. Thank you. Alrighty, let's see here. We continue with the next question on hand, which is from L. Kevin, who says full PPR. I kind of want to start Pearsall over BTJ. That's fine. I don't have an issue with that. Sounds good to me, Kevin. Thank you. Alex Dixon sends in a question, says full PPR, D-Hop or Pollard in the flex? In a full PPR, let me see where I have them ranked. Let's look up Hopkins. As it currently stands, I have DeAndre Hopkins ahead of Pollard in a full PPR. So that is the way that I would approach it as of right now. Thank you. How far ahead of it? Yeah, he's not considerably ahead, but he is still he's far enough within my full PPR rankings, which I would say there's no pivoting option. I just prefer to play D-Hop outright. Thank you. Fred sends in a question, says half PPR 14 team Emmanuel Wilson or Demario Douglas. Okay, let me see if I can... I don't know if I have Emmanuel Wilson even ranked within... No, I don't. So Demario Douglas is my answer. Now, if we get into a situation, which is the primary reason why you're asking this question to begin with, if we get into a situation in which there's a possibility that the Green Bay Packers completely blow out the Chicago Bears, which I think everyone is kind of anticipating to potentially take place. But if it was to occur, Emmanuel Wilson would probably get himself over 10 touches today. And in those overall efforts, should be able to potentially vie for enough fantasy upside that the conversation should be had. But as of right now, considering again, it is very much so dependent on that blowout factor or him stealing a touchdown on the goal line, just like they did last time out against Detroit. Unless that kind of a situation occurs, again, it is very difficult to predict what his overall outcome of production will be. So I'm going to lean towards playing Demario Douglas there. Thank you. All right, moving on to a question that came in from H. Jockish 7, who says CeeDee Lamb or Tillman in a full PPR. I'd rather play Tillman. And in your next question, Hunter Henry or Dawson Knox in a PPR. Let me see where I have Knox and Henry in a full PPR. I'd still have Knox ahead of Henry as of right now. Thank you. All right, Rogo has sent in a follow-up, says it's a half PPR. All right, Rogo, as of right now, yeah, we're playing Higgins in the flex. Thank you. I appreciate it, Rogo. All right, Adam sends in a question, says full PPR. Who would you start in the flex? Waddle, Rico Dowdle, or Kyle Pitts? All right, let me see where I have Waddle and Rico Dowdle in comparison to one another. So Waddle is there. Kyle Pitts is ahead of him. And okay, so the way that I currently have it ranked in a full PPR, Kyle Pitts 1, Jalen Waddle 2, Rico Dowdle 3. Now, they are all separated between 5 ranks. So Kyle Pitts is my 59, Waddle 60, and Rico 65. So they're relatively close, especially Kyle Pitts and Waddle. They are quite literally right next to each other, back-to-back in my rankings in the same tier, but I do have Kyle Pitts ahead of Waddle. If you want to play Waddle ahead of Pitts, I have no issue with it. Thank you. Alex, number 8, sends in a question. It says PPR, Rico on a bad team or Pollard with a bad matchup. I understand. Yeah, as of right now, between the two of them, I would rather play Pollard over Rico Dowdle in a full PPR. Thank you. Moving on to Jesse M, who says Ray Davis or Khalil Herbert in a half PPR. Well, okay. So herein lies the tricky situation and the difficulty of understanding what is going to potentially happen and predicting the potential future. As it currently stands, I have it as Ray Davis one spot ahead of Khalil Herbert. Ray Davis in my half PPR is my number 40 overall running back in comparison to Khalil Herbert, who's my number 41. So as it currently stands, yes, I would play Ray Davis ahead of Khalil Herbert, mainly because I haven't seen anything out of Khalil Herbert within the offense to make me feel at any point confident. Because again, he just joined the organization. So until we see utilization on a consistent enough basis, I would assume it's the Chase Brown show until the end of time. So Ray Davis is my suggestion as of right now. Let's hope he gets those 6 touches that eventually lead to a touchdown. Thank you. Moving on to a question that comes in from Teddy H, who says PPR, I need a running back and a flex. We have Estime, we have Madison, we have Warren, Waddle, BTJ, and Taysom Hill. Okay. In a full PPR scoring format, my question is, where do I have Madison in comparison to BTJ and Taysom? Because I'm going to play Waddle there. Just have to figure out, okay, so Madison's there. BTJ's ahead of him. Where is Taysom, though? Taysom is below both. Okay. So of the available options you have, Teddy H, my primary suggestion would be to play Waddle and BTJ. The third best option of this group is Madison. Thank you. Oh, so you have to play a running back and a flex. I apologize. Madison is your running back. Waddle is your flex. Thank you. Perk Nowitzki, 41, sends in a question. Standard, Shakir or Mooney? I have Wilson and Sutton. Even in a standards format, I'm going to play Shakir over Mooney. That's the way that I'd go about it. Thank you. AP sends in a question, says, good morning. Questions in the comments. All right, AP, let me just go ahead. Let's travel on over to the live chat. Let's see if Make Music had sent in a question. Let's see. Make Music, did you send in your question? Yes. Okay, so let's see here. Make Music says, if you were a man... Okay, dude. Happy birthday. Thank you. I appreciate it, Make Music. It says, if you were a mammal, with one would you be? Which one would you be? Based off of personality, body type. All right, brother. We're just trolling. All right. Make Music. I appreciate it. If you don't have any other questions, we'll keep it moving. Again, for those of you guys who are here, if you send in a super chat, expect it to be answered at a delay. Okay? There's many of questions that have been sent in. I'm just trying to catch up to the backlog of it. Okay? Thank you guys. All right. Let's see here. Where art thou, AP? Let's see if I can even find AP in the chat. AP. Yeah, AP, unless... Yeah, you're going to have to... Okay, I see it now. Thank you. All right, AP says in a full PPR, we'll need to drop a player for if Kittle is out, which he will be. At tight end, likely Knox. Would you drop Russell Wilson or Pearsall? My starting quarterback is Nix. My other quarterback, wide receivers. Okay, Yeah, if I was in your position, I would drop Pearsall, mainly because Bo Nix has an upcoming bye week, and in that circumstance, you're going to have to play Russell Wilson in his absence. So I don't want to drop Russell Wilson, lose out on that chance, and then have to pivot to another quarterback in the future. So Pearsall would be the drop in this circumstance, considering you have Nico, Adams, Neighbors, McConkey, etc. So as of right now, yes, Pearsall would be the odd man out in this scenario. Going forward, I would like to have both the quarterbacks on roster because of the upcoming bye. Thank you, AP. Appreciate it. All right, moving on. Let's see here. We have a question that comes in from... We took care of that. Perfect. Okay. Ado Frodom sends in a question. Says, in a half PPR start 3, we have JSN, ETN, Jacoby Myers, BTJ, Amari Cooper, estimate. Okay. Of those available options, the 3 highest ranked that I currently have is Jacoby Myers, JSN, and ETN. Thank you. Joe Barcelo sends in a question. Thank you, Joe. Kareem Hunt or DJ Moore for my second flex in a full PPR. I would rather play Kareem Hunt. Thank you. Charbroiled Cheese sends in a question. Says, Kraft or Knox in a full PPR? In a full PPR format, I have Dawson Knox ahead of Tucker Kraft. Thank you. Moving on to a question from Darius Harris. Thank you very much, Darius. Says, in a 12-man full PPR, start 1 in the flex, BTJ or Ricky Pearsall. As of right now, let me see where I have Pearsall in a full PPR. So in a full PPR scoring format, I have Ricky Pearsall ahead of Brian Thomas Jr. in a full PPR. Thank you. Honestly, in a half PPR, you could argue that he's ahead of Brian Thomas Jr. in that circumstance as well. But yes, in a full PPR, I have him at 35. BTJ is my number 36, with the event of George Kittle potentially missing. And then let's see here. It says, kind of leaning towards Ricky. Yeah, I agree. But the Jaguars mighty. Yeah, I don't think they're going to spam it that hard. I think you'll be fine. So yeah, as of right now, Darius, I would play Ricky Pearsall. That's my suggestion. Thank you. Joe R sends in a question. Says Madison or Jackson Smith and Jigba in a full PPR. I'd rather play JSN. Thank you. David Dooley says questions in the chat. Thank you. Okay. Before I get to that question, let me answer Mason Fu, who says full PPR. Would you start Evan Ingram or Rico Dowdle? In a full PPR, I'd rather play Evan Ingram. 6 point per passing touchdown. Mahomes or Russell Wilson. I'd rather play Russell Wilson there. I need ceiling play versus Barkley. Yeah, I play Evan Ingram and I play Russell Wilson. That's my two suggestions, Mason. Thank you. All right, David Dooley, let's see if your question is in the live chat. David, I don't see anything in the live chat. If you could do me a favor, type it in. That'd be greatly appreciated. Thank you. Alrighty, Firestone, I see it. Says start 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, and 1 flex. Aaron Jones, Montgomery, Hunt, Pickens, Higgins, Tillman. Okay, so of the available options you have here, not knowing your scoring format, I'm just going to assume it's a half PPR, meeting everyone in the middle. Firestone, the 2 running backs that I'm starting this week are Aaron Jones and Kareem Hunt. The 2 wide receivers I would play would be George Pickens alongside of Tillman, and I'm going to play Montgomery in the flex. So again, Aaron Jones, Hunt, Pickens, Tillman, Hunt. Aaron Jones, Hunt, Pickens, Tillman, Montgomery. Thank you, Firestone. My bad. Brain is lagging, to say the very least. All right, David, where you at? Anything in the chat from David Dooley? Nothing. Okay. Until then, we will wait patiently. I will continue answering questions. I will put you on the list, David. On David Dooley. Okay. Until David types that in, we continue on with Hayden Riggs. Thank you, Hayden. It says, good morning, Andrew. I have 3 running backs on bye. In a full PPR, I have Algier, but I'm thinking Pirine can be a sneaky play versus Buffalo. Who would you pick? I'd rather play Algier. I'm going to be totally honest. In a full PPR, I could see the path in which Samaje Perine outscores him. The only concern I have is the volume of targets that Kareem Hunt was able to, haul in last week. 10 targets, 7 catches. I would assume that there's a possibility where Samaje Perine gets less workload within that overall opportunity share in comparison to prior weeks, considering how great Kareem Hunt was with those opportunities. So as of right now, I'd prefer to play Algier. Thank you. Moving on to OJ Running, who says PPR McConkey or Jennings. I'd rather play Juwan Jennings. Thank you. Moving on to DeAndre Warren, who says Week 12 ranking, Geno, Richardson, or Drake May or Winston. It's last time I checked, it's Week 11. But to do you a favor, I'll go and look at Week 12 schedule, which I don't even know who's playing who. And, okay, so you have Geno, Anthony Richardson, Drake May, and Winston. Okay, so Winston versus Pittsburgh on Thursday. No, thank you. Then we have, where's Geno? Geno plays against Arizona. Don't love that either. Anthony Richardson versus the Lions. No, thank you. And then you have Drake May. Who do they play? Drake May's on a bye week next. No, he's not. Where is he? Where's New England? They play against the Dolphins. Out of those available options, the way that I would rank it would be Geno 1, Drake May 2, Jameis 3, Anthony Richardson 4. That's the way that I'd go about it. Thank you very much, DeAndre. Moving on to Charles T, who says in a half PPR, I need 2 out of the following options. We have DK, JSN, Marvin Harris. No, we have DK, JSN, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Worthy, Bateman, and Cooper. Yeah, play both of the Seattle Seahawks wide receivers, Charles. Both DK and JSN are your best. Thank you. All right, Tomas sends in a question, says, hi, trade my neighbors for Debo. In a half PPR 10-team league, yes, I would. Thank you. Rogo sends in a question, especially if you need the win this week and you cannot, suffer the absence of neighbors. I think it definitely helps you in the long term. All right, Rogo says, the reason why I'm iffy about Higgins is due to his rap sheet. Last time he got off the IR, he didn't score well. Look, here's the thing. The last time he came off of his injury, specifically earlier this season, he dropped 2 touchdowns in that game. I want everybody to remember that, okay? Because I specifically played him in the week in which he came back, and I watched that game, and I watched him physically drop 2 touchdowns in the end zone. I think he'll be fine. Again, it's not like he's coming off of the IR. It's a quad injury. It's not a hamstring. I think he'll be fine. He looked good, at least at practice, from the clips that I saw earlier this week. So I'm not too concerned about it. And considering, again, this is backs to the wall for the Cincinnati Bengals. They have to win this game. And I'd assume that he's going to have to ball out in order for them to win. But I understand that you're iffy on the matter. If you don't want to play him, don't play him. Again, you're the final decision maker of your team. I'm just here to give you what I would do. Thank you. J-Rod sends in a question, says, thoughts on this trade? Send Kyron Williams and Laporta for James Cook and Bowers. Fantastic. I love it. Look, Laporta dealing with his injury on top of the uncertainty that kind of, as of thus far this season has been associated with Laporta. Getting Bowers, which is a top 3 tight end rest of the season, on top of James Cook, which again, even though he's a lesser option than Kyron, getting a healthy tight end that you can use every week henceforth past the bye in great matchups with the number 1 receiving target of his offense. I love that trade. I'll take the James Cook and Bowers side 10 times out of 10 there rest of the season. Now as for your next question, start one in a PPR. BTJ, Moore, Tillman, or Pearsall. Out of those available options, I'm playing Tillman. Thank you. Eric Nixon sends in a question, says full PPR. Put one in the flex, Pearsall, Judy, Dowdle, or Pollard. Out of those available options, let me see where I have Judy in comparison to Pollard. All right, so Pollard in a full PPR sits there. I have Jerry Judy 2 spots ahead of him at my number 55 in comparison to my number 57. Therefore, I am suggesting that you play Jerry Judy there. Thank you, Eric. Taddy Mason, LLC, sends in a question. Says Shakir or Najee Harris, half PPR, 12-team league. Yeah, I'm playing Shakir there. I expect Shakir, I'm not even joking, to get like 8 receptions today. It would not surprise me if he does something of that nature. Chase sends in a question, says full PPR, start one. Dobbins, BTJ, Amari Cooper, Pollard, or Pearsall. Out of all those options in a full PPR, I am still playing J.K. Dobbins. Thank you. Armando sends in a question, says in a full PPR, Pierce, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Justice Hill, Juju, or Booty. Out of those available options, I think I have either Marquez Valdez-Scantling or Booty as the highest ranked. What is it? Full PPR? Yeah. Okay, let me check. So the separation between MVS and Booty is 46 compared to my number 49 at wide receiver. So yeah, I would take MVS there, and that's who I would play out of the group. Alec Pierce is my number 56 out of the group. And Juju is my number 53. So yeah, Marquez Valdez-Scantling is the highest ranked of all those options available. Armando, thank you. Khalil Trent sends in a question. Says start 2 in a full PPR. McConkey, Hawkinson, ETN. Let me see where I have ETN in comparison to Ladd. Yeah, I don't mind playing both Ladd and Hawkinson there as of right now. Okay, so this is what I'll say. Under the assumption that a Chargers game is going to have to be a shootout, in a full PPR, it's probably in your best interest to go with McConkey and Hawkinson. ETN, in the absence of Tank Bigsby, we would assume should be solid, but heavily requires receptions, which again is not a guarantee in any circumstance. I'd probably just play Hawkinson and McConkey as of right now. Thank you. Jamel Joyner sends in a question. Says in a half PPR, I need a wide receiver and a flex. Ingram, BTJ, MVS, JMO, Adams. Out of all those available options, I'm playing Devontae Adams as your wide receiver and Ingram within your flex. Thank you, Jamal Joyner. Elseway says questions in the chat. All right, Elseway, let me go ahead and add you next to David Dooley, and we'll go ahead and look at the live chat and see where your guys' questions are. All right, we begin with David. David Dooley says in a half PPR, should I trade Stroud, Brees, and Tank Dell for Burrow and Tillman? My roster consists of Stroud, Jamar, Reed, Kamara, Chase Brown, Brees Hall, Kenneth Walker. Okay, so here's the issue that revolves around this scenario. Trading away Brees Hall and not getting a running back in exchange is almost a death sentence, in my opinion. I understand that you have Chase Brown and Kenneth Walker and Kamara, but I don't see the value in making this move outright. Yeah, no, I don't take it. I'd rather have Brees Hall. If I'm going to ship away Brees Hall, I want a running back in exchange. I understand that you're stacked a running back, but in the same vein, like next week, if I'm not mistaken, isn't Kamara and Chase both on bye in week 12? Yeah, both Kamara and Chase are on bye next week. So if you move Brees Hall and you don't get a running back in exchange, that's my issue here. Oh, you have Tyrone Tracy also on your bench? Dude, okay. You just have like a stacked team. I don't even know what to do with this at this point. So actually, you can make irresponsible trades and get away with it in this circumstance. So yeah, I mean, look, if you just want to take the upgraded quarterback and wide receiver because you have Kamara, Chase, Brown, Kenneth Walker, Tyrone Tracy, Eckler as well, yeah, you can make the trade. That's fine. If you didn't have all that depth, I would say there's no way I'm taking that deal. But considering you do, you're at the privilege of being able to to make a one-sided deal there where, honestly, I think it's not in your favor, but considering you're just looking for the wide receiver upgrade, I don't mind it. Elseway sends in a question. Says, start one wide receiver, 2 in a flex. We have CD, Tillman, Mooney, JSN, Dobbs. I was offered Swift for my Hunt. I would give away Hunt immediately for Swift. It's not even a question. I have Pacheco on IR. Okay. So if you have Pacheco, I'd still make the trade. I would make the trade. In the long term, having Swift and Pacheco is the preferred. I have Montgomery and Connor. Do I take it? Yeah, I would take the trade. Well, okay, here's the thing. Elsewhere, if you need a win this week, you keep Hunt in order to ensure it, because I'm not playing Swift over Hunt. Like, you'd only do it in a position of like, okay, I don't need the victory this week. If you still need to capture a victory this week, you should probably keep Hunt because he's the better of the two options. But if you're like, hey, listen, I already have a 7-3 record, I'm making the playoffs, I make that trade in a heartbeat. Now, as for your prior question, CD, Tillman, Mooney, JSN, Dobbs. As for wide receiver, not sure what your scoring format is elsewhere. Let me see if you type nothing about scoring format. As of right now, Tillman's my number 1 wide receiver, CD's my number 2, and JSN's my flex. Thank you. All right, continuing on, we had a question that comes in from. After Elseway, we took care of that. We had Damien, who sends in a question. Says, trade Tillman for Otten. My tight end is Ferguson and Disley. If you don't need the wide receiver depth, I don't mind that. Again, that is very much so a future tense question in terms of like preparing for the fantasy playoffs, etc. Damien, if you do not need the wide receiver depth of Tillman, then sure, we make the move. Thank you. Kevin T sends in a question. Says, why the flip with Herbert and Love ranking? Yeah, the expectation of the game. Okay, look, here's the thing. First and foremost, Jordan Love is a guaranteed 2 touchdowns. Guaranteed. Okay, 2 passing touchdowns, or maybe 1 rushing, 1 passing. That's a guarantee. Taking on Chicago is still not an easy matchup. On top of the fact that Herbert, the overall pace of play that the offense has seen as of late has continued to accelerate. The overall passing attempts have continued to accelerate. And on top of it, has a significantly better matchup at home and in a situation where it's expected to be the highest scoring game of the week outside of the Baltimore Ravens taking on the Steelers. So if that game is purely going to be a shootout and it's going to force for Herbert to have to air it out the entirety of the game, I do believe in terms of yardage, he's going to get the touchdowns, but in terms of yardage, he will outscore and also additionally have additional rushing upside in comparison to Love, who hasn't activated that overall usage thus far this season due to his injuries. So across the entire board, Herbert, better matchup, better pizza, Papa. No, anyway, across the board, in the better situation. Caden sends in a question. Says, need 2 full PPR, T. Higgins, D-Hop, Drake, and Ridley. Out of those available options, I'll take Drake London and I'll take T. Higgins. That's the 2 that I prefer. Thank you. Out of the group, Ridley would be 3 and D-Hop would be 4. Steve sends in a question. Says, Mooney, Dobbins, or D-Hop in a half PPR flex? I'd rather play Dobbins. Thank you. Dan C sends in a question. Says, in a half PPR, who to flex? If Adunze, Dobbs, and Demario Douglas. Okay. Out of those 3 options, the way that I currently have it ranked in a half PPR would be Dobbs number 1. And then probably, let me see, do I have a Dunze 2 or Pop Douglas 2? No, I have a Dunze 2. So the way that I have it is Dobbs 1, a Dunze 2, Douglas 3. Thank you, Dan. Daniel Gonzalez sends in a question. Says, full PPR, Myers or Dobbins? Between the 2 of them in a full PPR, I'd rather play Myers. Next question, Tua or Geno? I'd rather play Geno. Final question, Lamb or Chuba not Chuba, that's Lamb or Chubb. In a full PPR, I'm playing Lamb. Thank you. Richard K sends in a question. Says, good morning, Andrew. Since I do not trust the quarterbacks in New York, would you put in Pickens for Neighbors? Standard league. I'm so confused as to why Neighbors is even in this question, Richard. Since I do not trust the quarterbacks in New York, would you put in Pickens for Neighbors? I'm so confused because Neighbors on a bye. I don't understand the question. If you're asking whether you would trade, if you would trade away Neighbors for Pickens, sure. If you're asking if I'm starting Pickens this week, absolutely. I have no idea what else you could potentially meant. Maybe is it like, am I playing Pickens over Aaron Rodgers in the Superflex? Maybe that's why you had the comment on the quarterbacks in New York, or I don't know. So as of right now, again, if you're trading for Pickens in this case, yes. If you're starting Pickens this week, of course you are. Thank you. But yeah, otherwise, still confused. Elseway says my PPR. Okay, got it. Let me go back to your question, Elseway. Let me see if I can find it. Elseway, your question is gone. I don't even see it in the live chat, so I don't even remember what it was. I'm going to be honest. You'll have to re-broach the conversation. Samuel sends in a question, says questions in the chat. All right, Samuel, let me see if I can find it right now. All right, Samuel, where are you at? Samuel Says in a 6-point per passing touchdown, I need upside because my opponent has a stacked team. His quarterback is Burrow. Should I play Jennings over Higgins as my wide receiver 2? To play Higgins, I need to drop a backup tight end Njoku to get him off IR. Yeah, look, as of right now, just leave Jennings in. Keep what you have on roster going into the future. You don't have to. Yeah, I don't want to drop anybody, Samuel. I just keep it as is. I don't know why the 6-point per passing touchdown format matters. I think you're just trying to kind of explain to me whether we should be playing Higgins up against Burrow for sure. In a full PPR, if that's what your case is, which I don't know if that's the case because you only mentioned 6-point per passing touchdown. In a full PPR, I'd rather have Juwan Jennings than T. Higgins. So that's why I'm saying as of right now, in your scenario, I wouldn't make any changes. I just leave Jennings in there because I'm assuming you play in a full PPR. It could not be. It might not be the case. It says my format is half PPR. Okay, so in that case, in the event in which you are in a half PPR, in a half PPR, I have Higgins as my number 18 and I have Jennings as my number 20. So, I mean, they're literally back-to-back ranked. If you want to play Higgins ahead of them, then yeah, you make the swap. But as of right now, I don't think it's necessary to make I need to go drop Njoku off of my bench in order to make this. I'd rather just hold what you have on roster for the future because it is extremely valuable to have. Thank you. All right, moving on to a question from Dejuan Golden, who says, explain Love over Mahomes. Thoughts on Anthony Richardson rest of the season? I'm not playing Anthony Richardson rest of the season. He needs to prove that he can actually run. If he doesn't have 80 rushing yards and a rushing touchdown every game, he's not a viable enough start. The guy can't throw the ball. Let's just be honest, guys. So, as for Jordan Love versus Patrick Mahomes, I think it's pretty simple. Jordan Love's a touchdown machine. I think I've mentioned it in the past. I think 75 to 80% of his performances over the course of the last 20 games have consisted of 2 or more touchdowns. With Patrick Mahomes, scoring 2 touchdowns is like pulling teeth. Especially taking out Buffalo's secondary, not interested there. Thank you. All right, we had a question that came in from the Argo Knight. 1234 says, Adunze or Demarcus Robinson? I'd rather play Adunze there. Thank you. Next question, Argonite Koo or McPherson? I'd rather play McPherson. Thank you. Actually, would I rather play McPherson? Let me see where I have them ranked. Yeah, McPherson's probably the better option. I mean, look, I don't love McPherson either. Let's get this kind of established really quickly. Koo and McPherson are both very much so, in my opinion, sketchy plays to an extent. Koo has not been great as of late. McPherson has at least in a shootout, but Koo also plays in Denver, which potentially provides a little bit more leg space for his upside. If it was me, I'd probably just play Koo because I think the drives will stall out more often in that scenario. So let's just roll with Koo in that scenario. Thank you. I have him ranked higher than McPherson as it currently stands in my rankings. Thank you. Kevin Thompson sends in a question. Says 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, and 1 flex between Breece Hall, Chase Brown, Josh Jacobs, Montgomery, Amon-Ra, London, Tillman, and Pickens. Okay. So in your scenario, Kevin Thompson, Pickens and Amon-Ra are your 2 starting wide receivers. Your 2 starting running backs are Chase Brown alongside of Breece Hall, and your flex is Josh Jacobs. Thank you very much. Best of luck. Moving on to Andrew Solis, who says, Downs or DJ Moore in the flex full PPR? Let me see where I have them ranked full PPR. DJ Moore is my number 37. Josh Downs is my number 34 in a full PPR. I will play Josh Downs there. Thank you. All right. For those of you who are joining us this morning, welcome. Good morning. Hope you guys are doing well. Again, the rankings that are right here are up to date as of this morning, ready to go. They do not include George Kittle. It is compensated for everybody that is playing in that game to have an accelerated potential upside like Debo, Juwan Jennings, Pearsall accordingly. But again, these rankings interpositionally will answer it. These are not Tuesday running back rankings. These are not wide receiver rankings from Wednesday. These are wide receiver rankings from literally this morning, 4 a.m., finished, ready to go, set, and starting. So again, like Momo in the chat asked Moody or Romo, the rankings will eventually pop up on screen. A lot of the questions that you guys are asking in the chat that I can specifically see can very easily be answered within these overall rankings here. Okay, thank you. All right, really quickly, just need to check something. All right, so in terms of, let me see what kind of reports we've seen this morning. Titans are optimistic Tyler Boyd will play. We don't care about Tyler Boyd. He doesn't really have much value. Okay, any other reports? Jalen Warren will play. Yeah, that was the expectation. That was the report that at least we saw last night, which was very promising. Okay. Okay, perfect. Very well. I think we're good there. All right, continuing on. After Andrew Solis, we had a question that came in from Chris Moraga. Chris, where art thou? Question. That is my question. Let's see. Can I look up your name in the live chat? All right, Chris says in a PPR flex, Bateman, Douglas, Booty, Pierce, Zamir White. Okay, we're not playing Zamir White. I don't know what universe you think you're playing in as of right now. In a PPR circumstance, between those available options, it's either between Bateman or it's Douglas. In a full PPR, as it currently stands, I have Bateman as my 41. I have Douglas as my 42. I'm not even joking. They're back to back. I have Bateman one spot ahead of him, and that's the way that I would go about it. Thank you. Especially if you're looking for upside, Bateman's got the touchdown upside in comparison. I appreciate it. Thank you. All right, moving on to a question from Puka Doncic, who says, PPR, Jordan Love, Baker on bye. Jacobs, wait, what? Okay, Jordan Love. You have Baker on bye. Jacobs, Cooks, which you mean James Cook, not Cooks, but anyway. Stevenson, AJ who played, CD, and Brock. Should I drop Nick Chubb or Evan Ingram for Juwan Jennings? Okay, so you're basically asking would I play Juwan Jennings over CD Lamb this week, which the answer is probably yes. Or I would even potentially play him in the flex position this week. So am I dropping either of those two? Okay, so in your position, okay, you have James Cook. Okay, as of this current moment, if I was in your position, I would drop Evan Ingram and I would pick up Juwan Jennings. That's the way that I'd go about it. And I would play him this week. Yes. Now, again, that's only because you have Brock Bowers. If you didn't have Brock Bowers, that's probably something that I don't explore. But at this current moment, considering the circumstance, yes, I'd explore that. And honestly, if you're in a position, Puka, where you are playing Jordan Love as your starting quarterback, Josh Jacobs and James Cook are your starting running backs, you have A.J. Brown as one wide receiver, I would play Juwan Jennings as the second wide receiver, Brock Bowers at tight end, and I would play CeeDee Lamb in the flex in a full PPR. I would bench Stevenson in doing so. Thank you. Now, honestly, if you wanted to, you don't even have to pick up Juwan Jennings. If you're like, you know what, honestly, I'd rather just keep what I have, that's fine. But whatever you do, I would rather play Evan Ingram ahead of Stevenson within the flex. So whichever way you go about it, whether it's Juwan Jennings or Evan Ingram, excuse me, one of those two have to play over Stevenson in the flex in a full PPR. Thank you. Moving on to a question that comes in from Andrew Knows Worst. Says, Tillman or Ladd McConkey in the flex full PPR? I'd rather play Tillman. Next question, DK Metcalf and AJ Brown. Okay, no, that's not a question. It's just a statement. Got it. So yeah, you're good to go. I'd rather play Tillman there. I appreciate it. Thank you very much, Andrew. Moving on to a question that comes in from Richard K. Says, sorry, I meant to say, should I put Pickens in for Neighbors for rest of season? Well, I think that's very much so dependent on specific matchups. I think over the course of the season, depending on what the quarterback situation is in New York, I think it'll give us more of a, to answer your question right now, I'd say yes. Once we get an establishment as to whether or not Daniel Jones is playing and whether it's Drew Lock, and we see whether or not, Drew Lock can actually lead an offense in the National Football League. Last season, he was able to help the Seattle Seahawks defeat the Eagles on a Monday Night Football game, if you guys remember that one. So again, he has been relevant in the past. He could be a solid backup quarterback, but in terms of rest of season, yeah, probably Pickens will be, at least in my opinion, he is preferred over Neighbors as a start rest of season, most likely, especially with the upcoming schedule on hand with Pickens. Thank you for the clarification, Richard. Kevin Thompson sends in a question, says, we pick the same lineup. Thanks, Andrew. All right, sounds good. Thank you, Kevin. All right, Fish Clinic sends in a question, says, full PPR, Jennings, Pollard, or Tillman? As of right now in a full PPR, I have Tillman as number 1, Jennings number 2, Pollard number 3. Thank you. DA sends in a question. Says non-PPR, 2 running backs and 3 wide receivers. I have Sutton, Brian Thomas Jr., Garrett Wilson, Puka Nacua, Chase, Darnold, and Nix. Okay. They have Purdy and need wide receivers. Worth trading Wilson for Purdy? No. I'd much rather have Garrett Wilson. The thing is, going forward, you can trust playing Bo Nix in a lot of the upcoming matchups up until his bye week. And then at this bye week, you'll swap it out for Darnold. But no, I'm not trading Garrett Wilson away in order to get Purdy. No, thank you. If it was a super flex format, I'd say yes. But in this kind of a format where you could play 3 wide receivers every week and potentially 1 flex, DA, no, I would rather keep what you have on roster. Thank you. Anonymous sends in a question. All right, Anonymous. Let's see if I can find your question in the live chat before my YouTube crashes here. Let's close this. Let's close this. Okay. Anonymous, you didn't type anything in the live chat. Actually, maybe you did, but I haven't seen it updated. Nope, you haven't. There it is. Never mind. My YouTube takes so long to load. Okay. Anonymous, is it a half PPR? Any case for Spears over Estime? In a half PPR, no. In a full PPR, sure. Feel like he could get 9 catches today? No, he can't get 9 catches today. Look, Anonymous, Tony Pollard plays football for the Tennessee Titans. What reality do you see in him getting 9 catches? Now, the backfield as a duo could end up with 9 total receptions, but it'll be Tony Pollard with 5 and then theoretically Spears with 4. And if he's only going to get 4 receptions and a half PPR, that's 2 points. I mean, I'd rather have the potential of the running back that is going to get himself the bulk majority of probably 15 plus touches, will have goal line upside out of the 2. So yeah, I don't see there being a case for Spears over Estimate unless we were in a full PPR. That's the only format in which I would potentially even consider the conversation. Now, as for your next question, also ride Aubrey for 1 more week or bite the bullet with Parker Romo. Bite the bullet? That's disrespectful, first and foremost, okay? Parker Romo is going to go off today. That is very disrespectful, first and foremost. I can't believe you said that. Now, listen, if you trust a Dallas Cowboys offense led by, like I said last week, if you can trust an offense that is led by Cooper Rush, Trey Lance, more power to you. I don't trust it in any sort of circumstance. So, like I mentioned last week, and like I'll mention again, many of you guys asked me last week, Andrew, why don't you have Aubrey ranked in your top 12 kickers? Well, here's the fact of the matter. When you're down 25 points, you are not kicking field goals. You are going forward on 4th down. Yes, he's a great kicker. Don't get it twisted. He can make a 60-yard field goal with his eyes closed. But the guy is not going to be given opportunity because they're getting blown out by the Houston Texans. And honestly, oftentimes, just like last week, you're going to be in situations where you're going to get maybe 2 field goals. If they're not both 50-yarders, you're screwed. If you get a 30-yard and a 40-yard like last week, you get 7 points. I'd rather go after a different kicker that is going to be in an offense that is not only going to get PATs, but field goals on top of it on a consistent basis at a pretty good range as well. Thank you. All right, we move on to a question that comes in from Ken. Ken Went says, in a 12-team full PPR Superflex, bye-week issues, flex spot, should I bench Levis and play Dowdle instead? In a Superflex format, am I playing Dowdle over Levis? No, I'd rather play Levis this week. As of right now, I'd rather play Levis. Thank you. Justin F. sends in a question. Says, does Tyreek bottom end worry you? I know you have Tyreek above DK and Tillman, but would starting DK and or Tillman be a safer play? What do you do? Look, as of right now, if it's my team, I'm playing Tyreek Hill. I have him rostered in order to play him. If I wasn't going to play him, I would have traded him away. In the event in which you prefer to play DK Metcalf and Tillman, I don't have an issue with that. If you want to play both of those wide receivers, I think, again, all 3 are going to play well. As to who scores the touchdown is purely going to be the determining factor as to who's going to outscore the other. Who's going to get that, the touchdown called back, or all those. There's going to be a couple pivotal plays for each of these players. Some of them are going to get deep shots down the field in which they're going to have a 40-yard bomb to send towards them. One of them is going to catch it. The other one's going to get a defensive PI call, and they're not going to grab it, right? There's going to be a couple plays throughout the games in which it'll separate the bunch. But again, as of right now, I'd prefer to play it as Tyreek Hill and DK Metcalf. If you prefer to play DK and Tillman, I don't have an issue with it. Thank you. Leroy Ramos sends in a question. Says, should I drop Jonnu Smith and start Taysom Hill? In a half PPR and a standard? Yes. In a full PPR, I'd probably go with Jonnu. Thank you. Moving on to Spiteful Karma 48. Says, in a full PPR, 1 flex league, set lineup, Kamara, Hall, Jacobs, St. Brown, Higgins, Puka, Jennings, Bowers, TJ. Okay. So, let me write this down really quickly. So you have, if I'm setting this lineup, Kamara is your RB1 in a full PPR. Hall is your RB2. St. Brown is your wide receiver 1. Puka is your wide receiver 2. And, okay, Bowers is your tight end 1. So then we have Jacobs, Higgins, or Jennings Full PPR flex. I think I have Jacobs ranked the highest. Let me just check just for sake of clarity. Jacobs would be the highest ranked. So, okay. So Jacobs would be your flex. So top to bottom, Spiteful, Kamara, Hall, St. Brown, Puka, Bowers, Jacobs. Thank you. All right. Continuing on. We had a question from Cinco2X. Cinco, what's up? PPR start 1. CD, BTJ, Sutton. Sutton is my start there. Very clear in a way. No hesitation about that. Next question, Lockett or BTJ? I expect an expanded role from JSN to the extent to where it will impact Lockett negatively. I will take BTJ there. But if you want to play Lockett again, as of right now, in a full PPR, let me pull this up. So in a full PPR wide receiver, BTJ is my number. Okay, BTJ is number. Well, if Ricky Pearsall plays, BTJ is 36, and Lockett is my number 41. So they're relatively close, but I do prefer BTJ at the moment. Thank you. And in your next question, Flex 1, CD, BTJ, Sutton, or Hunt. Out of those available in a full PPR, I would play Sutton. Thank you. So basically, to answer your 3 questions, it's Sutton, BTJ, Sutton. Thank you, Cinco. Major Arms sends in a question. Major, thank you. Says, sparked controversy question. Okay, let's see here. Major. Major, I don't see your question in the live chat. If you could do me a favor and type it, that'd be greatly appreciated. Appreciate that. Thank you. Frosty says, Andrew hits the fact of the matter and don't get a twisted sentence. Yeah. Listen, I'm more than just about anybody. Okay. I just have these quips. I have these consistent lines that I go to. Because I'm just improving majority of the time, I have to find something that fills in without an or you know? So at the moment, yeah, you will hear at the end of the day, advantageous, overall, you will hear these words at a unclipped volume. All right, thank you. All right, I'm waiting for Major Arms. Until then, Zolbu sends in a question. Zolbu, thank you. Zolbu says full PPR, Josh Downs, Elijah Moore, or Ricky Pearsall start 1. Let me see where I have Ricky Pearsall in a full PPR. Would I play him over Josh Downs? Yeah, it's probably safe. Well, okay, look. As of right now, based on my projection model, I have Josh Downs at 34 and Ricky Pearsall at 35 in a full PPR. Do I play Ricky Pearsall over Josh Downs? They're in the same tier. They're back-to-back ranked. Their points are almost identical based on what I have projected. I don't mind playing Ricky Pearsall there, especially because of the absence, or only because of the absence of George Kittle. But as of right now, I currently have Downs outscoring him. So the way that I'd go about it, for me, for the sake of my sanity, I'd suggest playing Downs there number 1, Pearsall 2, and Elijah Moore number 3. Thank you. If you don't want to trust Anthony Richardson as of right now, I totally understand it. Just pivot to Pearsall. Let's see how Downs plays after the week, and then we can approach it next week in terms of potentially playing him instead. But yeah, as of right now, if you're worried about the Anthony Richardson situation, just pivot off. Somebody in the chat asked Drake May or Stafford. I have Drake May ranked within the top 16. Stafford is my number. Stafford of the remaining quarterbacks is my number 18. So like after Drake May goes Aaron Rodgers, Matthew Stafford, Kirk Cousins, Anthony Richardson. So Stafford's pretty far behind in my mind. Okay, so we took care of Zolbu. Thank you. Godwin sends in a question. Says standard league. 2 wide receivers and a flex. We have CeeDee Lamb, Tillman, Sutton, Shakir, and Najee Harris. Okay. Standard scoring format. Sutton, Tillman, auto starts. I think I'm honestly going to... Okay. So it's either between CeeDee Lamb and Shakir. Conventional wisdom would say to play CeeDee Lamb. I'm going to go I'm going to go against the grain in this situation. I'd rather play Shakir. So I'd go Tillman, Sutton, and Shakir as of this week. Thank you, Godwin. All right. Major Arms. Did you end up sending in your follow-up here? All right, says, hey, Andrew, with Lamb being questionable and the possibility to not play, with no pivot, do you still play Lamb with confidence or grab someone leaning Lamb, Christian Watson, Pop Douglas, Mike Williams, Demarcus Robinson on waivers? Tillman and Adams are already starting. Okay, got it. As of right now, I would, as said by Anonymous earlier, I'm going to bite the bullet. I'm going to try to play Lamb. In the event in which he does not play, I'll take the 0 points. I do not want to play Christian Watson, Pop Douglas, Mike Williams, or Demarcus Robinson. Instead, I will take the risk and I will try to play Lamb. In the event in which he is absent, I mean, you'd go to the waivers and you'd pick up Jalen Brooks. You'd go pick up Tolbert. You'd go pick up Cavante Turpin, John Mechie. Worst case scenario. But even if those aren't available, I'm still trying to go for Lamb and seeing if he could potentially get it going. Thank you. All right. We took care of Godwin. We move on to Nathan 24. Thank you, Nathan. I appreciate it. Nathan says PPR, Higgins or Ramondre? Goff or Mahomes? Okay. Higgins or Ramondre. In a full PPR, I'd rather play T. Higgins. Now, as for Goff or Mahomes, again, like I've mentioned, rankings right there. So as of right now, Goff is my number 10. Mahomes is my number 11. I prefer Goff at the moment. Again, if you don't want to play Goff, mainly because, again, you expect to see the Detroit Lions completely batter the Jacksonville Jaguars and blow them out. My only kind of rebuttal to that overall situation is that, okay, if the Detroit Lions are going to win 42-7, how are they going to score 42 points? How are they going to score 6 touchdowns? Could we at least assume 2 of them go to Jared Goff? I mean, that we're not even asking for much of that scenario, right? So, yeah, as of right now, if they're going to blow out the Jaguars, which they should, Goff will be implicated for at least 2 touchdowns in my mind. Doug Lamb sends in a question. Says, PPR flex, pick one. Estimate Andrews, MVS, Judy, DJ Moore, or Quentin Johnston, but I'm already starting Lad. Got it. Out of those available options, I'm playing Mark Andrews first and foremost. Jerry Judy would be the second best option, though. Doug Lamb, thank you. Alrighty, let's see here. Frosty says he's implicated for. Yes, implications are always back to the matter. Exactly, Astro, exactly. Matthew Schutz sends in a question. Says, why Stroud higher than Herbert? Stroud's been stink. Okay. Nico Collins. End of conversation. Nico Collins. But yeah, besides the Nico Collins factor, which again is the entire offense in terms of the passing game and is going to bring Stroud back into the light of being a legitimate fantasy quarterback, he also takes on the Dallas Cowboys. One-sided affair. Should be a blowout and in the favor of the passing attack of the Houston Texans. Thank you. Okay, we move on to a question that comes in from Tony V HTX 101. Says full PPR, Stafford or Tua. I'd rather play Tua, especially considering they're playing the Raiders. And flex Dobbins or London in a full PPR. I'd rather play London. So Tua and London are my suggestions. Thank you. Moving on to a question from Cinco2X as a follow-up. Says PPR, CeeDee Lamb, BTJ, Hunt, or Hopkins. Said it wrong. Okay, got it. Did I say it wrong or did you say it wrong? Oh, you typed it wrong. Okay, got it. Okay. So, in that scenario, in a full PPR, I think I'm just going to play Kareem Hunt. I don't think I need to take the risk. Where do I have Lamb in comparison? Lamb. Yeah, I'm playing Kareem Hunt. He's the highest ranked of the bunch. Kareem Hunt is my suggestion, Cinco. Thank you. Chris Simpson sends in a question. Says full PPR. Amari Cooper, Tyler Lockett, or Quinn Johnston. As of right now in a full PPR scoring format, I currently have it as Amari Cooper, 1 spot ahead of Quentin Johnston, and then Tyler Lockett would be third. So Amari Cooper 1, Quentin Johnston 2, and Tyler Lockett 3. Thank you. Ibrahim sends in a question. Says, we believe in Ingram rest of season? Yes. Regardless of who plays quarterback for the Jacksonville Jaguars, the offense is purely predicated on getting the ball to the tight end position. Now, in the event in which we see after this game, let's say, for example, they get blown out, if in fact Doug Peterson is fired and he no longer is calling plays, even their offensive coordinator, who would be remaining to at least kind of pick up the play calling work, knows the entire offense. He knows what the Doug Peterson way is. It's still going to be Ingram rest of season. Now, of course, he has an upcoming bye week, which is a little bit difficult to kind of deal with. But yes, I do trust in Ingram regardless of quarterback play going forward. Alrighty, we have a question that comes in from Flawless. It says, PPR, I need upside. Downs or JK? Gus scares me. I don't feel like Downs is the quote-unquote upside play. I think it is definitely going to be J.K. Dobbins in my mind in this scenario. Thank you. Jocelyn says, hey, bro, your rankings are half PPR, right? Correct. The rankings are on screen are half PPR, 4 point per passing touchdown. Then sends in a follow-up, says, will Knox still be over Jonnu in a full PPR and Knox over Dowdle as well? Knox is for sure over Jonnu in a full PPR. In a full PPR, is he over Dowdle? He is over Dowdle by 2 spots. Knox is my number 63. Dowdle is my number 65. So yes, Knox would be ahead of both of those options. All right, Rugby in the chat says Judy or BTJ. I'd rather play Judy. I mean, again, think about it this way, guys. If you have a question regarding a full PPR wide receiver format, right, in comparison to the half PPR that is on screen, all you really have to do to determine like any sort of adjustments is purely just, okay, is the player going to get a significantly higher volume of receptions than the alternative option? Like if I look at Jerry Jeudy and BTJ, Jerry Jeudy should not only get more receptions, but more receiving yards. The only way BTJ outscores him is if in the case of a touchdown. So when I already have Jerry Jeudy at 31 compared to BTJ at 35, like Jerry Jeudy in a full PPR is even a better option in that scenario. I know Rugby's been spamming this whole time, but I mean, dude, like, I swear, you should know. Like, it's on the screen. It's right there. Even in a half or full PPR, it's not going to variably change much. All right. Amarmo sends in a question. It says, coming off of the IR, Thielen or Leggett? Need to drop one. I'd rather have Thielen rest of the season, to be totally honest. Thank you. Anvesh says, questions in the chat. All right, Anvesh, let me see if I can find it. Anvesh says, rest of season, full PPR, Hunter, Henry, or Disley. I'd rather have Hunter, Henry rest of the season. Yeah, Hunter Henry's the preferred. If Dawson Knox plays well today, that's great. But again, unless he's in a fantastic matchup, very much so not a consistent enough potential start this week or rest of season specifically. Thank you. Jonathan sends in a question. Says, in a 10-team PPR, I already started Hurts and Smitty. Need one wide receiver and one flex out of Tillman, Ridley, Adams, Jennings, and Higgins. Okay. So in a full PPR of those available, the two highest ranked I have, I mean, again, I think they're all great options, but Adams and Tillman are my two foremost ranked players. Jennings would be third, Higgins would be fourth, and Ridley would be fifth. Thank you. We move on to a question from Flawless, who says, need upside downs or... Okay, we already took care of that one, right? Yeah. So you sent it in twice, right? Okay, got it. Look, if you want to play downs, you can. I prefer to play J.K. Dobbins in that scenario, though, as of right now. Flawless. Thank you. Colby LaBeouf sends in a question. Says, Kenneth Walker or Drake London in a half PPR. In a half PPR, I'd rather play Kenneth Walker. Thank you. Young Lord sends in a question. Says, PPR pick 2. Mooney, JSN, and D-Hop. I need upside. Mooney, JSN, and D-Hop. Okay. So of the group, I would play JSN and D-Hop. Thank you. Fibonacci sends in a question. Says, full PPR, I'm currently 7-3. Pick 2 to start. Hunt, Jacobs, D-Hop. I would play Hunt and Jacobs. Thank you. Shake sends in a question. Says, how do we feel about AJ Barner? So I have AJ Barner ranked as my number 24 tight end in a full PPR. Again, I can find alternative options that are better. I have Davis Allen ahead of him. I have Juwan Jennings ahead of him. Josh Oliver, Mike Gesicki, Cole Kmet, Dalton Schultz, Brock Wright, Freiermuth, etc. So he's on my rankings, but I mean, am I super confident about playing him? Even in the absence of Noah Fant, not really. Like, the 49ers could be exposed at certain, scenarios, but as a whole, the tight end position within the Seahawks offense is not a priority in comparison to dumping it off to guys like Kenneth Walker out of the backfield for like the short check down in comparison to a tight end, or of course looking to get JSN and DK Metcalf involved, which is the primary offense. But yeah, as of right now, he's on the radar, but he's definitely not someone that I'm considering unless you play in a super deep league. William Campbell sends in a question. Thank you, William. Says that I'm currently 5-5, 2 wide receivers, 2 running backs, and 1 flex. We have Hill, Ridley, Pickens, Jennings, Higgins, Chubb, Henry, Chase Brown, Pollard. Okay. Like Jennings without Kittle, but I might be a rain game. Yeah, again, you don't ask me about rain games because unless, again, I've said it before, unless it is a complete disaster, I'm talking about 40-mile-per-hour winds, and the rain cannot be contained. We've gone over this in weeks past. I will tell you when I'm concerned about rain because if there's a hurricane hitting, we'll talk about it. But outside of that, we're not gonna panic. As for your question though, 2 wide receivers, 2 running backs, 1 flex. The 2 running backs that I'm starting out of the available options are Derrick Henry and Chase Brown, easily. As for the 2 wide receivers, I'm gonna suggest as your starters, I'm gonna play Pickens alongside of Hill. And then within your flex position, in a half PPR, let me see where I have them ranked. Half PPR, you have Higgins, Ridley, and you have Jennings, right? Okay, so Jennings will go to 20. Higgins and Ridley's there. Okay, so currently I would have it as Higgins being in your flex. Ridley would be second, and then Jennings would be third. So would it be Jennings second? Yeah. Higgins first, Jennings second, Ridley third. So as of right now, full way, William Campbell in a half PPR, I would set it as, again, Henry, Chase Brown, Pickens, Hill, and Higgins. Thank you. If you wanted to play Jennings over Higgins, I have no issue with that, especially with Higgins coming off of, obviously missing some time here. If you wanted to swap one over the other, I don't have an issue with it. Thank you. Christian sends in a question. Says bench one, Harris, Etienne, or Shakir? I would bench Harris. Thank you. Watts sends in a question. Says 1 point per reception, Pittman, Lockett, or Juju? I'd rather play Lockett out of the group. Thank you. Moving on to the next question. Half PPR, BTJ or Reed? I'd rather play Reed. Thank you very much, Watts. Moving on to Dizzle D414 says, thinking of starting either Tillman/Shakir over Hill/Reed this week because of the matchup and the target share. What 2 wide receivers would you start? Are you sure you want to ask me that question? Because you're not going to like the answer. If I was in your position there, I would be playing Tyreek Hill, and I would follow it by playing Cedric Tillman. That's the 2 that I would roll with. So, well, actually, let me see. What do I have Shakir in a full PPR? Do I have Shakir ahead of Tillman in a full PPR? In a half PPR, that's the way that I'd go about it. In a full PPR, I have Shakir ahead of Tillman. So if you're in a half PPR, I would suggest you go Hill, Tillman. If you're in a full PPR, I suggest you go Hill, Shakir. Now, in the event in which you're like, all right, listen, I'd rather just play Tillman and Shakir, go for it. That's fine. I don't have an issue with it. That's not the way that I would approach it, but I can see the vision as to why you would go about doing that, Dizzle. I don't have an issue with it. I don't think you're crazy. I think it's actually justifiable, but I wouldn't approach it in that regard as of right now. Thank you. AM sends in a question. Says, start Kareem Hunt, London, or Reed in a PPR? Ooh, let's see where I have Kareem Hunt in comparison. I'm pretty sure I'm going to go Drake London there, but let me just confirm. Yeah, I'm going Drake London there. Thank you. I would consider Hunt as a more viable option if I could guarantee that he was going to get himself a very similar receiving workload as he did last week, considering that was more of an anomalous situation. Yeah, I'd rather just play London at the moment. Thank you. Perry or Paul? Perry, hope you're doing well. Says in a full PPR Superflex, Caleb Williams, Ridley, or London? I would much rather play both of those receivers over Caleb Williams. If it was my choice, I don't mind either of the 2 wide receivers. I prefer London ahead of Ridley, but again, as long as you play one of the 2 over Caleb Williams, that's all I ask that you do, Perry. Thank you. Dominique Rat sends in a question, says, must win, full PPR, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, 1 flex. We have Kareem Hunt, Kyron Williams, Josh Jacobs, Puka Nacua, Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams. Who should I drop next week? Sam Laporta, Hunt, Swift. I've got Hawkinson at tight end. Okay, so really quickly, let's answer the first and foremost question, Dominique. In regards to 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, and a flex. Of the available options that you have, Kyron Williams and Josh Jacobs are your 2 starting running backs. Puka Nacua and Tyreek Hill are your 2 starting wide receivers. I'm playing Hunt in the flex. Now, as for who am I dropping out of those available options next week, again, I'd like to keep Hunt until I can get a confirmation as to what Pacheco looks like. So Hunt would stay on roster alongside of Swift. Laporta will be dropped next week because Hawkinson's already passes by and Laporta is dealing with an injury if you can't leave him on your IR. Thank you. Nas sends in a question. Says Montgomery or Nico Collins in the flex full PPR. I need a safer pick or Josh Jacobs. Okay, so here's the thing. Nico Collins is the play, objectively. Now, I understand you're trying to go for the quote-unquote safer play. Let's say we get into the event in which Jahmyr Gibbs steals all the touchdowns. Montgomery could get screwed over relatively quickly in that scenario. Let's say we get into a situation where we just have a complete air raid from Green Bay. Josh Jacobs could be completely ignored. Let's say we get into the Houston matchup and Joe Mixon steals all the touchdowns. Nico Collins just comes out with 50 yards and 5 catches. Ultimately, all of them have potential risk. But if I'm going to legitimately play one of the group, I'm going to suggest Nico Collins. If you were going to play a second player in this circumstance, it would be Josh Jacobs. But again, I'm so confident in Nico Collins there that I'd just be outright starting him. You had also put Nas. You said also I have Chase Brown starting at running back. I mean, look, at this point, if you're starting Chase Brown, your second RB would be Josh Jacobs, unless Chase Brown's already your second RB. I don't know. But Chase Brown, Josh Jacobs, Nico Collins is in that flex for me. I understand you're trying to go for quote-unquote safety. Nico Collins, I mean, what is it? I think it's 7 games in a row. No, it's not 7. I think it is actually. 7 games in a row with 85 or more total yards. And then it's also 9 games in a row of more than 4.5 receptions. Like, I don't know. I have a hard time thinking he doesn't go off against Dallas. Thank you. Eric M sends in a question, says full PPR. With Isaiah likely being activated, do you think Pitts over Andrews is better play? No, Isaiah likely doesn't do anything, guys. I mean, in what universe are we in? Isaiah likely. Okay, let's see here. Isaiah likely, outside of week 1, has been relatively quiet as of the last couple weeks here, okay? So last time out against Denver, obviously had 0 receptions. The week prior to that against Cleveland, 4 for 47. Still in that week, Mark Andrews was relevant. Against Tampa Bay, 2 for 17, 2 for 27, 3 for 13. Okay, let's say he gets 2 or 3 catches. In the long term, really the value that Mark Andrews provides is touchdown upside. That is it. Without touchdown upside, Kyle Pitts really is just not within even the same breadth of the conversation in my opinion as of right now. Thank you. SR20 Noir sends in a question. Says Mooney, Quentin Johnston, Cooper, or Myers. Out of that group, I'm playing Jacoby Myers. Thank you. And then as for your next question, Mark Andrews or Kraft, I'd rather play Mark Andrews. Thank you. Gets Knowledge sends in a question. Says in a full PPR, Tillman, Dell, Ridley, D-Hop, need 2. Okay, so out of that group, Tillman and Ridley are my 2 highest ranked. Gets Knowledge. And then as for your next question, full PPR, Myers, Jennings, ETN, need 2. I would play Jennings and Myers there as well. Thank you. Richard Carpenter sends in a question. Nothing attached to it, Richard. I appreciate it, though. Let me see if I can find it in the live chat. Richard Carpenter. Tolbert, MVS, Deontay Johnson, or Tyjae Spears in a full PPR. It's between Tyjae Spears and MVS in my mind. Let me see where I have them ranked in a full PPR. Spears. As of right now, I have Spears ahead of MVS by 5 spots. 85 compared to 90 overall in my flex. So Spears would be the suggestion as the number 1. MVS number 2. Tolbert 3. Deontay Johnson 4. Thank you. Okay, we move on to a question that comes in from JJC with an LA Rams logo. JJ, what's up? Start 3 in a PPR. Tillman, CD, Mooney, JSN Dobbs. Of the available options, Tillman 1, CD Lamb 2, JSN 3. Those are the 3 that I'm starting. Thank you. Niner86 says, in a half PPR, okay, we have London or Mooney. I'd rather play, sorry, that's not London. Lamb or Mooney, apologize. Lamb or Mooney. I'd rather play Lamb. Next question, Mostert or Warren. I'd rather play, no, I wouldn't. I'd rather play Warren. So Warren and Lamb are my suggestions, Niner. Thank you. Jayville sends in a question. Says, I got Mooney as my wide receiver 2, Tillman at the flex. Kind of thinking Stevenson at the flex, but it's hard to decide if I should sit Mooney and start Tillman. If so, okay, look, as of right now, I think Tillman is a better play than Mooney. Now, the question really is Stevenson a better play than Mooney? Let me see the half PPR rankings I currently have set. In a half PPR, I have Stevenson. Where's Mooney? In a half PPR, I have Stevenson ahead of Mooney. In a full PPR, I have Mooney ahead of Stevenson. So depending on which format you're in, Jayville, which again you didn't mention, in a half PPR, I'll take Stevenson in the flex. So I'd put Tillman at wide receiver 2 and Stevenson in the flex. In a full PPR, I'd leave it as is. Thank you. Jared sends in a question. Says in a full PPR, flex, Flowers, Cook, Shakir, or Mooney. Out of those available options in a full PPR, I have Khalil Shakir ranked the highest. Thank you. Hits with a $sign sends in a question. Play 2, Evan Ingram, Dawson Knox, Demario Douglas. Give me both tight ends. Thank you very much. Hits, appreciate it. J Vera 04 sends in a question. Says flex 1, full PPR, Pollard, Metcalf, Higgins, and Shakir. In a full PPR, I believe I have Shakir ranked the highest. No, I do not. I have him 1 spot behind DK Metcalf. Metcalf's my number 14. Shakir's my number 15 in a full PPR. So as of right now, again, I could flip a coin on it. Considering my projection says Metcalf. My initial reaction was going Shakir. So honestly, kind of flip the coin. If it's me, honestly, I don't mind just going Shakir. I'll suggest it right now. I'd rather just play Shakir over Metcalf. Even with my projection saying Metcalf ahead of Shakir by 1 spot. I'll just take Shakir there. But both of them are great options. Honestly, all 4 options are great. But yeah, let's go with Shakir. Zippo sends in a question. Says T. Higgins or Cedric Tillman. I'd rather play Cedric Tillman. Thank you. Damien sends in a follow-up question. Damien says we have Tillman, Higgins, and Pacheco. What did it say? Tillman, Higgins, and Pacheco for my flex. How much of an upgrade would it be to trade Tillman for Otten? Feels like a bad trade, but I need a tight end. Okay, so here's the thing. He'll be past his bye week next week. He will still be the number 2 receiving option behind Mike Evans henceforth. And quite frankly, their matchups are really good up ahead. They have the Raiders, they have the Giants. They have, again, like we talked about the other day via live stream. I think it was either on Thursday or Wednesday. I don't recall, but On one of those days, we went over the schedule of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think at very least they win 6 of their last 7 games. Once they come back off of the bye, they're going to buzzsaw through teams. So I understand and I agree with you. I think making that trade isn't as fantastic long term, but when Pacheco's back to being Pacheco and Higgins is back to being Higgins at a full capacity, having Otton is actually going to be a benefit for you, especially considering you need tight end. So yeah, I'd make the move. Alexander Valdez sends in a question. Says, pick one in a full PPR, Pollard, Downs, or ETN. As of right now, in a full PPR, I have ETN. Probably it's either ETN or Downs. Let me see here. I'm gonna assume I have ETN ranked the highest. Let's see. I do in fact have. Where's Downs? Downs. I have ETN ahead of Downs in a full PPR. Thank you. Ever so slightly, but I do. Sam sends in a question. Sam says, in a half PPR with no Kittle, Pearsall or Estimate? I'd rather play Pearsall. Thank you. FRS sends in a question. Says, questions in the chat. All right, FRS. Thank you. FRS. Says, in a full PPR, would you start Jennings or Tillman? I'd rather play Tillman, but I can justify the idea of playing Jennings. As of right now, in a full PPR, the way I would have it structured in terms of rankings, Cedric would be my number 16 and Jennings would be my number 18. So, I mean, they'd be in the same tier of wide receiver. They'd both be tier 5 wide receivers, and I could justify playing one over the other, but I do prefer Tillman in this circumstance. But anyway, continuing on with your question, says, I need big upside. I started Terry McLaurin, also have wide receiver depth. Which running back should I go with in a package deal of Debo plus Marvin Harrison / BTJ? I have Achane, Montgomery, Najee, and Dowdle. Okay, look, if you were going to go for a running back, again, the running backs that I've continued to harp on, potentially trading for rest of season, James Conner, Bucky Irving, and Tyrone Tracy. Those are the 3 guys that I want rest of season that you could potentially afford trading for today, especially considering they're on a bye. If you can end up doing so, that would be preferred. But they would be in that order. Conner, Bucky, Tracy. That's what you should go after in order to try to recoup some value while using those wide receivers in order to get them back. Now, in regards to, again, Jennings versus Tillman, I prefer Tillman. If you want to play Jennings, I don't have an issue with it. Thank you very much, FRS. I appreciate it. Moving on to a question from Jay Hawley, 203. It says, Tillman or London? This one I've gone back and forth on, I think, multiple times over the course of this week. I started off with Tillman being ahead of him. I've moved back to London being ahead, so I'll stick with London there. Thank you. Daniel Leck sends in a question. Says, in a full PPR, looking for 15-plus game between Hill, Knox, and Disley. You're looking for that, but brother, I don't know if I can guarantee that any of those 3 score 15 fantasy points. Here's the fact of the matter. There's the quote. Taysom Hill in any given week, under the assumption he scores a touchdown, could very easily get to that overall kind of conversation. But outside of a touchdown is very much so a volatile positional play. So in a full PPR, I'd significantly prefer to play either of the 2 overall tight ends. I'd honestly prefer to play Knox there. Disley, I think, also has a great matchup. But as of right now, in a full PPR, I have Knox ranked as my number 9 overall tight end. Disley's my number 10. They're in the same tier. I could justify playing Disley over Knox. I don't have an issue with it. I think both of them are going to play great, but I do prefer Knox at the moment. Thank you. Andre Turner sends in a question. Says, full PPR, 1 flex. DeAndre Swift, Jacoby Myers, Lad McConkey. Out of those 3, I'm playing Jacoby Myers. Thank you. Ray Rodriguez sends in a question. Says, full PPR, start 2. Reed, Higgins, Jennings, Myers. Okay. In a full PPR, what do I have Reed? Let's see. Reed is there. Okay. All right. In a full PPR, Reed and Jennings are my 2 highest ranked as of right now. Andre. So, sorry, not Andre. Ray Rodriguez. Next question. Okay. So, Ray, this is the way that I'd go about it. Reed number 1, Jennings 2, Higgins 3, Myers 4. That is the order. So, Reed and Jennings would be my suggested starts. Thank you. Bearcat says, Andrew, Waddle over Pearsall. The issue with Waddle, okay, the primary issue is that he's got so much talent, they just don't give him enough opportunity, which is a problem. Which, again, I would like to trust the talent in that the matchup against the Raiders would lead to potential upside. If you wanted to play Pearsall over Waddle, I don't even have an issue with it. I honestly think that it's justifiable. But at the moment, again, I think to myself, there's no way that the Dolphins aren't completely putting up a massive number against that Raiders defense. The Raiders can't stop a soul, nor can their offense prevent themselves from turning over the ball. So personally, I feel like there's just more opportunities for Waddle with less target competition to succeed. If he ends up putting up a goose egg, it wouldn't surprise me. That's the risk you have to take. As of right now, I'm willing to take that risk. But if you want to go ahead and just roll with Pearsall in the absence of Kittle, I don't have an issue with it. Moving on to a question that comes in from, we have J-Mac, who says PPR, need 2 between Jonathan Taylor, Kenneth Walker, Chase Brown. In a full PPR, the way that I have it currently ranked is Chase Brown number 1 and Jonathan Taylor 2. Thank you. Moving on to a question from 219 Pyro says London, Njoku, or Jennings in the flex full PPR. I'll play London number 1, Jennings 2, Njoku 3. Thank you. Flotation says, pray for me, sir. Okay, let's see here, Flotation. Did you send me something on Twitter? Okay, let's see here. Flotation, what have we got? Okay, Flotation. I mean, look, in terms of your roster, I mean, Eckler had one of the most ridiculous full PPR games I've seen in quite a while the other night. So, in terms of what else are we theoretically playing here? Quentin Johnson, Yeah, you got a great looking team. I mean, I'm not making any variable changes here. You're good to go. Obviously, everybody's on bye for you, so you're hoping for the best. Obviously, you also took on Saquon Barkley, who scored 39.7 points. That's what Saquon does, man. He either goes for, again, we've talked about it this season. In the games in which he scores touchdowns, he's averaging over 30 fantasy points per game. In games in which he doesn't score touchdowns, where Jalen Hurts is stealing all of them, he is scoring 10 fantasy points per game on average in a half PPR. There is the Jekyll and Hyde of Saquon Barkley. He's either going to fry your ass, or he's just going to be a pedestrian running back at the end of the week. Which, again, hopefully for the remainder of the season, considering he has the best rest of season strength of schedule, hopefully he's continuing to fry people for our sake. Anyway, I will keep your fantasy team in my prayers. Flotation, best of luck. God's Gang sends in a question. Says, you only have ETN and Najee Harris 3 spots apart in a half PPR. I get that changed in full PPR. Still can't get there with ETN. Both defenses are good, and Jacksonville is really bad. Yeah, look, as of right now, the full PPR factor that leans me in the direction of ETN by a significant margin is that Najee Harris, first and foremost, gets no receiving utilization. Additionally, takes on the second, or I wouldn't say, over the course of the entire season, it's the second most difficult matchup, but as of late, he's definitely in the top 5 in terms of the most difficult matchups you could possibly ask for. Baltimore's defense has shut down every running back. Sure, they can maybe allow 50 yards and a touchdown, but outside of him scoring a touchdown, Najee Harris is going to be in a complete world of hurt because, again, the matchup in itself implies that in order to keep up with the Baltimore Ravens offense, you have to throw. And if you're throwing the entire time, you have to bail out on the running game. So as of right now, in the complete opposite end of the spectrum where Najee Harris is not implicated for more receiving utilization, when we have ETN on the other side of the coin, playing against, of course, the Minnesota, they're playing against the Detroit Lions. They played against Minnesota last week. When they play against the Detroit Lions, you would assume that ETN, who's literally never came off the field, and D'Ernest Johnson had 0 touches last week, you'd assume that he's going to get himself more receiving utilization on top of anything that ends up happening in terms of the rushing category, in comparison to, of course, Najee Harris, who is still competing with Jaylen Warren in that overall circumstance. Alex Espinoza sends in a question. Says, got offered Pacheco and Debo for Mixon. Thoughts? Okay, so there's multiple thoughts I have on this. If you have Kareem Hunt, I take the deal immediately. Give me Pacheco and Debo rest of the season. In the event in which you do not have Kareem Hunt, I am still very much so considering the deal in the event in which you need the wide receiver depth. If you are in need of a solid wide receiver to rest of the season that will start, and Debo will start rest of the season for you in this category, I would also take it. If you are, if you have, let's say, for example, Garrett Wilson and Cooper Kupp already, and you've already got some others starting in the flex, we don't even take it. We just roll with Mix the rest of the way. Thank you. All right, moving on to a question from Jonathan McMaster. Jonathan, hope you're doing well. So Jonathan says, in a full PPR, start 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, and 2 flex out of Kareem Hunt, Jahmyr Gibbs, Joe Mixon, DeAndre Swift, Cooper Kupp, Amon-Ra, Cortland Sutton, Drake London, currently sitting London and Swift. Okay, so this is the way that I have it, kind of broken down, Jonathan. The 2 starting running backs that I would approach with this week, Joe Mixon, number 1, Jahmyr Gibbs, number 2. The 2 starting wide receivers I would play this week, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Cooper Kupp. Then the 2 flex I would play would be Cortland Sutton, and then I'm thinking, is it either Kareem Hunt or Drake London? In your position, I don't mind the Kareem Hunt play in the flex. That's fine. So leaving London and Swift on the bench, I don't have an issue with it. That's fine by me, Jonathan. Thank you. You're good to go there. We move on to a question that comes in from Fu Win, who sends in a question. Says, pick 2 in a full PPR. Ingram or ETN? So Pick one, you mean, in a full PPR, because you only mentioned 2 players, Ingram and Etienne. Let me see if you sent in something else in the live chat to like clarify. Oops, I meant pick one. No problem. Okay. So if I'm playing one of the 2, I'm playing Evan Ingram there over Etienne in a full PPR. Thank you. Moving on to iShine101, who says, hey, Drew, I need a boom in a 10-team, okay, half PPR league. Should I sit Pollard and start Amari Cooper? In my flex, I'm starting Achane and Kareem Hunt already. My starting wide receivers are Lamb and Devontae Adams. Okay, let me see if I have Pollard or Amari Cooper ranked higher in a half PPR. So as it currently stands, I have Tony Pollard ranked as my number 57 in comparison to Amari Cooper as my number 61. Considering we have the absence of Dalton Kincaid and Keon Coleman, there is a potential in which Amari Cooper could outscore Pollard. As of right now, considering the return of Tyjae Spears and additionally the return of Will Levis and the lack of overall opportunity that Pollard had last week and probably will have this week considering the difficult matchup against Minnesota, if you are looking for objective upside, you were trying to go boom or bust, Amari Cooper is your play. Thank you. Moving on to a question that came in from Flotation, says Knox or Jonnu Smith? I'd rather play Knox this week. Thank you, Flotation. Did you end up having that within your overall question on Twitter? No, you already had Knox in. Yeah, we're good to go there. Thank you. Appreciate it, Flotation. Alrighty, let's see here. We move on to a question from Dirtbag Forever. DB, what's up? It says full PPR. With bonuses at wide receiver and flex, we have Ridley, Adams, Dobbins, Reed, and Judy. Okay, so in a full PPR scoring format, the current way that I have it ranked is the following. Let me see where I have Dobbins in comparison to the field, actually. Dobbins. Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay. So as it currently stands, the way that I would go about it, DB, would be Adams 1, Jaden Reed 2, Ridley 3, Dobbins 4, and Judy 5. So if we're going to start a wide receiver in a flex, it would be Adams and Reed as the 1-2 combo. Thank you. All right. We move on to Bruv, who sends in a question. Says in a half PPR, play 3 between Zay Flowers, Devontae Adams, Diop, and CeeDee Lamb. If it was my team, Bruv, I'm going to play Zay Flowers, Adams, and CeeDee Lamb. I'm benching D-Hop this week. Thank you. All right. Carlitos Way sends in a question. Says, need 2 wide receivers. We have Tyreek Hill, Cooper Kupp, Josh Downs, McConkey, and Hawkinson. Okay. So I don't know why Hawkinson's in the mix here. Maybe you have a flex implicated. But let's say, for example, you need 2 wide receivers and a flex. I will give you the answer anyway. The 2 wide receivers I'm playing are Tyreek Hill and Cooper Kupp. Now, if it's between Josh Downs, McConkey, and Hawkinson within the flex position, I am playing Hawkinson. Thank you. AJ Wright sends in a question. Says Stroud or Russ in a 1.5 PPR. 1.5 PPR, also Pearsall or Mooney. You get 1.5 points per reception. That is a ridiculous situation. Like, I immediately got a headache just thinking about that. Anyway, Stroud or Russ, I'd rather play Stroud. Now, as for Pearsall or Mooney, I'm still going to stick with Mooney. If you want to play Pearsall, that is on your terms. Thank you. Tony R481 sends it a question. Full PPR, flex, pick 2. Hopkins, Reed, Cooper, Myers, Swift. Okay, so between those options, in a full PPR, the 2 highest ranked that I have are Myers and Reed. That's the way that I would go about it, Tony R. Now, as for your next question, full PPR, pick 1 tight end, Knox or Henry, I'd rather play Knox. Thank you. Moving on to D. Nell, who says, trade Derrick Henry for JT and Neighbors in a full PPR. Need a wide receiver. Yes, if you need a wide receiver, that's perfectly fine. If it was me, I would try to see if the team that has Mike Evans had a running back that I'm also interested in, trade away. Well, actually, it depends. Anyway, that's very much so circumstantial. So as of right now, sure, I would take the deal for long-term purposes, especially considering you need the wide receiver. All right, moving on to a question that came in from Ace Second. Where's Ace's question, though? Where's my Ace? All right, Ace says, full PPR, start Dobbins or ETN? I'd rather play Dobbins in a full PPR. Thank you. Dobbins still gets himself receiving utilization. It's typically like 3 or 4 receptions a week? Let's see here. J.K. Dobbins, yeah, like the last couple weeks, 3, 2, 4, 3, 2, 3, 3. Like he gets 3 or 4 receptions a game. So he's still going to get himself enough of a baseline of production within that category to still be able to compete. And then also he has himself the goal line utilization, the better offense, the better matchup, etc. So yeah, Dobbins is the preferred for sure. Ace Second. Thank you. Jonathan McMaster, no problem. Have a good one, my man. All right. Fed Excellent in the chat says, "Sup, Andrew? I picked up Disley after Kincaid went down. Should I replace Disley with Knox in a full PPR? I currently have them back-to-back ranked in the same tier. If you want to play Disley over Knox, I don't have an issue with it. They're ranked as my number 9 and number 10 overall tight ends in a full PPR, under the assumption that, of course, Kittle is absent. So I do have Knox ahead of him, but I don't mind playing one over the other. I think they're both going to be great. Kareem Hunt or Drake London half PPR? Tony, just play Kareem Hunt there. Okay, we move on to a question from JVFN. JV, where is your question? I see it. Full PPR. I traded Hubbard for Pickens. Beautiful. That's fantastic, actually. Do I start Njoku or Kraft? I'd rather play Njoku this week. I've got Pickens and Shakir as well. Okay. Do I start BTJ, MVS, Dell, Sheet, Judy? Okay. So there's a lot of questions here. There's a statement to begin with. You traded Hubbard for Pickens. Beautiful. I love it. That's as good as it gets. I would start Njoku over Kraft. And then you've said, I've got Pickens and Shakir as well. So again, Pickens and Shakir are already starting for you, I'm assuming, this week. So then it's a matter of BTJ, MVS, Dell, Judy in the flex or estimate. So in a full PPR scoring format, if it's pretty much just between Dell and Judy, which at this current moment in a full PPR, I have Dell ranked the highest of the bunch. So that's the way that I would go about it. That would be your third option and or your flex there, JVFN. Thank you. Dilo, what's up? Says, trust me when I say play Anthony Richardson. All right, Dilo made a proclamation, everybody. So, Dilo in the past, okay, has been an absolute beast at coming out of nowhere and saying things that are completely out of the realm of possibility and it becoming truth. So, in this case, we're going to make a audible, okay? Dilo is someone that I have he's a prophet of sorts. He's a part of the community, has been around for quite a while. I respect the opinion wholeheartedly, to the extent to where I am legitimately going out here and I'm going to change my rankings on screen. Okay, Dilo, I'm throwing it out there. This is obviously, Dilo, I mean, you know why I'm making this move, right? It's because of all those years ago, what happened with Rex Burkhead. Okay? It's out of pure fear rather than anything. So, as of right now, Anthony Richardson is my number 16. You see it? Okay, cool. There you go, Dilo. That's for you, buddy. I'm not joking. Like I will swap my rankings if you say you have a feeling about it, because I know you got some crazy I don't know. You have some like time traveler-esque energy sometimes. You say some things and then it somehow happens, and I'm like, I don't know how that happened. Anyway, continuing on, Shining sends in a question. It says, PPR, do I flex Tillman, Waddle, Myers, or Chubb? Tillman, Waddle, Myers, or Chubb? Out of those available, I would much rather play Tillman over the entire rest of the bunch. Tillman would be number 1, Myers would be number 2, Waddle would be 3, Chubb would be 4. Thank you, Shining. Appreciate it. Definitely not sends in a question. Says, happy football Sunday. It is. Listen, at 2 a.m. when I finished rankings and I was about to go to sleep, I sat there in my bed and I was like, I really love football. Like, I truly, truly, truly love the sport of football. More than just about anything in this world, the sport of football is just so incredible. There's a reason why there's 1,100 of you in here. Because we all love football. And every Sunday for the season, we get to enjoy the spectrum of games and also together suffer in the absolute disaster that is the refereeing in the National Football League. But nonetheless, we all love football, and that's why we're here as a collective. Thank you. Okay, continuing on. Definitely not says happy football Sunday. Need upside against the number 1 seed. 2 wide receivers, Pickens, Zay. Okay, 2 running backs, Gibbs and Jacobs. Cool. Tight end is Knox. Flex is Kareem Hunt, Shakir, CD or Shakir or Ramondre, PPR. Okay, so as your second flex this week, I would play Shakir. That's the way that I would go about it. Definitely not. Thank you. Diego sends in a question. Says full PPR. Start Tillman or Jennings or DK. Sorry, Tillman, Jennings, or DK. As of right now in a full PPR, the current ranking order at which I have it would be DK Metcalf 1, Tillman number 2, Jennings number 3. Thank you. Both of them are all 3 of them are rankings wide receiver 14 to 18. So really, you've got 3 great options there. Whoever scores the touchdown is really going to be the most valuable. I think it's DK that does it. Thank you. All right, we move on to a question that comes in from, can I find it? There it is. C. Crip sends in a question. C, thank you very much. Says, hey, Andrew, I need 2 in a full PPR. We have Jennings, we have DK, we have Hunt, we have Jacobs. Okay. So of the available in a full PPR scoring format, I have to see where I have Jacobs in comparison to the rest of the field, and then I will convey how I have it ranked. Okay, it's Jacobs and DK Metcalf are the 2 highest ranked of the group. That's the way I go about it, Secret. Thank you. Auntie Slayer says Mac Hollins or Elijah Moore in a full. Well, actually depends on format here. Let me see where I have Mac Hollins in a full PPR. And okay, so in a full PPR, I have Elijah Moore ahead of him. In a half PPR, I have Mac Hollins. So if you play in a standard or half PPR format, I will play Mac Hollins. If you play in a full PPR, I will play Elijah Moore there. Auntie Slayer, thank you. Vlad sends in a question. Good morning. What quarterback should I play, Brock Purdy or Joe Burrow? I prefer Brock Purdy. If you want to play Joe Burrow because of the absence of Kittle, I don't have an issue with it. As it currently stands, as you can see on rankings, it'll pop up here in just a moment. The quarterback rankings are set as Brock Purdy 3, Joe Burrow 4. That is the way that I have it. I would prefer to play Brock Purdy as of today, going up against that Seattle defense, because again, Brock Purdy typically goes off against them. In the event in which, of course, Christian McCaffrey steals every touchdown, so be it. I'll bite the bullet, but as of right now, I'm going Brock Purdy. Thank you. All right, Jizzy sends in a question. It says, pick 3, Kyron, Kareem, Amon-Ra, Puka, Tillman. Okay. Incredible options. Jizzy, what is your scoring format, though? Let's see if you typed it in the chat. If you can do me, well, okay, let's say, for example, you play in a full PPR. It's Kyron, Amon-Ra, and Puka. Full send. Even in a half PPR, I think I'd probably keep it as such, but I'd give a consideration to Hunt in that circumstance. But as of right now, just go with Kyron, Amon-Ra, and Puka. Thank you. All right. Preem sends in a question. Says, in a full PPR, Kenneth Walker or Higgins for the flex. Let me see who I have ranked higher. I believe it's going to be Kenneth Walker, but I could be mistaken. Kenneth Walker. Yeah, that's a half PPR. I need to go to full. Yeah. In a full PPR, I have Kenneth Walker ahead of T. Higgins this week. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right, we move on to a question from Michael Wynn, who says, start Quentin Johnston or Jameson Williams full PPR and why? Look, as of right now, between the 2 of them, the way I have it set in a full PPR is Quentin Johnston, 1 spot ahead of Jameson Williams. The fact of the matter is, the Lions offense does not require Jameson Williams to pop off in order for them to win. Can he make a singular play turn into a touchdown? Absolutely, but so can Quentin Johnston. Both have demonstrated that over the course of the season. I mean, Quentin Johnston, 4 of the last 6 games he has played, he has scored a touchdown minimum. So when we're talking about players who have the ability to have deep target opportunities that are going to lead to one singular play making their entire fantasy week, these are the 2 best for that overall kind of context outside of an MVS for this week, theoretically. So as of right now, the only reason I prefer Quentin Johnston is because I expect that to be a back and forth shootout in comparison to where the Detroit Lions will probably take a pretty steady lead early and then just run out the clock for the remainder of the game, which again lowers the overall potential for upside in the case of Jameson in comparison. But again, both of them back-to-back ranked, both fantastic options. Captain Crunch in the chat says, is Kittle out? The expectation is that he's not going to play. At least that's the report that we read last night and this morning. Thank you. Derek Just in the chat says, full PPR, BTJ or Cedric Tillman? It's not close. I'd rather play Cedric Tillman. Thank you. Let's see here. Have they already designated him out, though? Like, let me go to Yahoo. Let me see if my fantasy team... Let's see here. If I go to Kittle... Yeah, he's still quote-unquote questionable. But again, based on the reports, it says he's unlikely to play. Whenever you have the unlikely to play, that's pretty much giving him like the doubtful tag. The doubtful tag, like we've talked about, 99% of the time they don't end up playing. So, yeah, we would probably just stay away from that. Okay, here we go. Continuing on, we had a question that came in from OKCBK, who says, at PPR, pick Dobbins, Swift, Montgomery, Tillman, Downs. Okay, if we're picking 3.5 PPR of the available, Montgomery's number 1, Tillman's 2, Dobbins is 3. Okay, Montgomery, Tillman, Dobbins. That is the way that I would go about it. OKC, thank you. Alrighty, we continue on. CS Derek 13, thank you. Says, hey Andrew, I got Saquon bomb dropped on me Thursday, but hopefully I can salvage this week. Pick 2 in a PPR: Chubb, Ladd McConkey, Tony Pollard, BTJ Shakir. If I was in your position, I'm playing Ladd McConkey and Shakir. Thank you. Moving on to a question from Ibrahim, who says, Wright is higher. Goff throwing touchdowns this game? Wright is higher. You mean Brock Wright? Yeah, Brock Wright is significantly higher than where I had him earlier this week. I've moved him into the top 16 conversation. Is Goff throwing touchdowns this week? I think 2 is definitely within the realm of possibility. If we get to 3, I think we'll get lucky there. The only time that we would get to 3 touchdowns from Jared Goff, and mark my words, it would have to be either multiple big plays down the field from Jameson Williams. So Jameson Williams would individually have to score 2 touchdowns this game. Or we get into a situation where we get down into the goal line. David Montgomery is stuffed twice, and on third down play action press, and we see either Amon-Ra and or Brock Wright coming down with a touchdown. That's the only way that I could foreseeably predict a third passing touchdown from Jared Goff. Thank you. Moving on to a question from Stallions Production. Says, you like Lamb rest of season this year? No, I don't. Someone wants Aaron Jones for Lamb. Someone wants Aaron Jones? No, I'd rather have Aaron Jones the rest of the way. I have Hunt, Cook, Harris at depth. No, you keep Aaron Jones. If you're giving away a Lamb to get Aaron Jones, you take the Aaron Jones side of that deal. Thank you. Michael Martinez sends in a question. Michael says, 12-team half PPR. I need 2 wide receivers in a flex between Kupp, Lamb, Waddle, Downs. Worried about Lamb's injury with no pivot. Quite frankly, I would still tell you to risk it because I don't really want to play. I mean, look, okay, so here's the thing. As it currently ranked, I have Kupp, Lamb, and Waddle as my 3 highest. If you have no pivot, the only way you can go about this, I mean, do you want to play Downs ahead of Lamb? If you have no pivot, and this is a close enough matchup, then yes. Just like we did last week with both Nico Collins and Tyreek Hill, like I mentioned to you guys last week, if you have no pivoting option, you have to play the starters you have right now. In this case, I don't feel as risky rolling out Lamb, but I felt the same way about Nico Collins last Sunday night, and he didn't play. So if you're in a really tight position, Michael, just play the 3 wide receivers you have available for sure. Kupp, Waddle, and Downs, and let's hope for the best. Thank you. Chris Allin says, sorry. Did you already read my answer? Yeah, I read it an hour. Actually, I read your answer 2 hours ago, brother. I read it 2 hours ago. Where were you? Where'd you go, Chris? All right, let me get back to your question. So, Chris, yeah, I read that. I'm not even joking. It was at least 2 hours ago. You were like one of the first persons that sent in a question. Am I crazy? Okay. So what I need to do is I need to go find your prior question because it is lost within the logjam of all the questions that were sent in. So let me go find it right now. All right. We need to go Control F. Chris. All right. So Chris. Okay, Chris. I believe this is your question. Your question earlier today was 2 wide receivers, 2 running backs, and 1 flex. You have Jefferson, Sutton, Addison, Flowers, Montgomery, Hunt, Etienne, Estime, and Najee Harris. My suggestion was and will continue to be your 2 starting wide receivers are Jefferson and Sutton. Your 2 starting running backs are Montgomery and Hunt. And your flex play of the week is going to be Flowers. Thank you. All right, we continue on with Mo Metcalf. Mo, hopefully you typed in the live chat. I'm going to go ahead and head on over there right now, and hopefully it is sitting there. Mo Metcalf says, full PPR start 1, Chase Brown, K9, Josh Jacobs, Montgomery, Higgins. Of the available, Chase Brown is my highest ranked player, Mo. That would be my suggestion within your flex. Thank you, Mo. Moving on to a question from Jordan Summer. Jordan, where is your question, though? Let's see. Jordan Summer. Jordan Summer says, hey, Andrew. With George Kittle out, do you see Juwan Jennings being a better flex than Tank Dell? Absolutely. Without a doubt in my mind. Absolutely. Thank you. You should play Juwan Jennings for sure there, Jordan. Appreciate it. Anthony C. sends in a question. Says, Pollard or Najee Harris in a half PPR? I'm cooked. No, you're not cooked. You're deep fried with Popeye's batter. You would play Pollard there. Thank you. Moving on to Terry R., who says, starting Dallas' defense over New Orleans and Denver is a mistake. Correct. It is an absolute mistake. It is not only a mistake, it is malpractice. I'd motion to get you removed as a manager from my league. Actually, you know what? Maybe we keep you in the league to take advantage of those decisions. But yes, it is malpractice to play Dallas' defense this week over New Orleans or Denver. Absolutely. Thank you, Terry. I appreciate it. Moving on, we have Jack Garcia, who says, full PPR, I need to pick 2 between Adams, Sutton, and Jennings. I prefer to play Sutton and Adams. If you want to play Jennings because of the absence of Kittle, I don't mind it. But as of right now, my suggestion to you is Sutton and Adams. Thank you. Edsy sends in a question. Edsy, where is your question? Edsy says, sorry, question is Nick Chubb or Pearsall PPR? In a PPR format, I will rather play Pearsall there. Thank you. Appreciate it, Edsy. All right, Jizzy says in a 12-man Superflex full PPR league, I have Puka, Zay, Bateman, Mooney, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Sorry, that's not Amon-Ra. That's and Sam Darnold. So I thought the autocorrect. Never mind. And Sam Darnold. I need some upside. Should I play Bateman or over Sam Darnold? No, you have to play Sam Darnold. Absolutely, without a doubt in my mind, you are playing Sam Darnold within your Superflex. Thank you. Moving on to Stallions Production says, would you trade Aaron Jones for Nakua? If you do, okay. In your scenario, in which Stallions, let me go to your prior question. I don't know if it's even in the chat anymore. Stallions. Okay, so you were saying earlier, right, that your running back depth consists of Kareem Hunt, James Cook, Najee Harris, right? Trading away Aaron Jones in this circumstance, I think, is a little bit risky, but okay, so Kareem Hunt eventually disappears. So then you would have Harris and Cook rest of season, which again, both of them, okay, one of them is past their bye, but the other one isn't. James Cook is not going to be available for you next week. If you're in a scenario, Stallions, where next week you need James Cook or you need a fill-in for running back, and it's a must-win week, then I'd say yes, you absolutely need to keep Aaron Jones on roster. But if you're like, hey, listen, Andrew, I'm already setting up for the fantasy playoffs, then I'd say, yeah, let's make the trade and let's get Nakua in this circumstance. Thank you. Alrighty. We move on to a question that comes in from Bradshaw, who says, in a half PPR start, Hawkinson over D-Hop in the flex? Let me check. So as of right now, in a half PPR scoring format, let's see where I have Hawkinson in comparison. So Hawkinson's ahead of D-Hop. And Njoku, is he ahead of D-Hop himself? No. So this is the way I have it as of right now. I have it as Hawkinson 43, DeAndre Hopkins 50, and Njoku 52. So the way that I would, at least the way that I would set it, Bradshaw, would be playing Hawkinson and Hopkins. But if you want to play both tight ends, that could also work. That's fine by me. But I would play Hopkins and Hawkinson. Thank you. Moving on to Jesus, UCSB, who says, I'm out of the playoffs, LOL. Damn, that already, huh? But it's my birthday. Can I get a birthday shout out? That's right. Okay. To Tony in California. Tony, happy birthday. Hope you have a wonderful Sunday. Again, even though you may be out of the fantasy playoff contention, again, there's still a lot of hopefully fantastic football to watch. Have a great rest of your Sunday and happy birthday. Dylan sends in a question. Says, hope all is well. It is. Thank you. Need one in the super flex. Oh, sorry. I need one in the flex and a full PPR. Rome Odunze, Jamison Williams, or BTJ. Out of those three, I'm playing Jamison first, BTJ second, Rome Odunze third. Thank you. Team T sends in a question. Non-PPR, Juwan Jennings, Mooney, or Ridley? I play Juwan Jennings there. Thank you. Okay, moving on to Michael Susmith. Michael Susmith says, Bo Nix or Brock Purdy? I'd rather play Brock Purdy there. Thank you. Jose Rodriguez says, full PPR, Montgomery or Hunt in the flex? I'd rather play Hunt over Montgomery in a full PPR. Thank you. Moving on to Diego A, who sends in a question. Diego, where is your question, though? Is it in the live chat? Control Diego. Diego A says, I have JSN in the flex with Kittle questionable and unlikely to play. Would Pearsall be a better play? No, I'd rather play I'd rather play Jackson Smith and Jigba over Pearsall, even in the absence of Kittle. Thank you. Moving on to Nick Watson, who says, full PPR, Jennings or Higgins? In a full PPR, I'd rather play Juwan Jennings. Thank you. Tone sends in a question, says, full PPR, start BTJ, DJ Moore, Estime, Algier. Out of those available options, BTJ is my number one. Thank you. Johnny Kilroy sends in a question, says, should I go Debo or Aaron Jones in the flex spot? I'd rather play... That's a really good question. I think I'd rather play Debo regardless of format. Let me see where I have them in a half PPR. Yeah, Debo is ahead of Aaron Jones by... Let me see, where's Aaron Jones? It's not a considerable margin, but it's enough to where in both half and full PPR, I'd prefer to play Debo. Especially considering Debo, in the last 3 games he's played against Seattle, scored over 18 fantasy points every game. And on top of the fact that he has Kittle missing this week, it just seems like it's an automatic in my mind in that circumstance. Thank you. All right. BB Benny says, flex PPR, who has the highest floor? The highest floor of production, Benny, is Montgomery. Thank you. All right. We move on to a question from Jordan Sumner. It's not even Summer. It's Sumner. I'm blind. All right, Sumner, did you have a follow-up? Says full PPR, ETN or Rashad Bateman. Let me see who I've ranked highest. I think it's probably ETN if I had to guess in a full PPR. Let me check. ETN is in fact ahead of Rashad Bateman in a full PPR in my rankings. Thank you. Moving on to a question that comes in from Ziggy. Ziggy Lee says, full PPR. You like Dobbs over Pop Douglas this week? In a full PPR, let's see. Dobbs, yes. I have Dobbs ahead of Pop Douglas. Thank you. Moving on to ICU Mark says, full PPR, 2 wide receivers, 2 flex. I have CD on Monday. Wide receivers are D-Hop, Sutton, Garrett Wilson, Higgins. Who should I bench and how long should I wait for CD status? Okay, so this is the way that I'd go about it. Week 11 NFL. So this is my primary suggestion. I'm playing Sutton, Garrett Wilson, and Higgins blindly. I am waiting this afternoon at about 1:25 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. The Buffalo Bills will be taking on the Kansas City Chiefs. If by that moment, if by an hour before that game, or even 10 minutes before that game, if there is no update on the status of CeeDee Lamb, just play D-Hop. Don't risk it. Just play D-Hop, Sutton, Garrett Wilson, and Higgins, and we'll wait and see what the status is of, CeeDee Lamb later, and just play your studs that at least are going to be, active, and you're not going to have to pivot later on. So yeah, I would just keep it as is unless we hear any sort of confirmation that he's going to play later this afternoon prior to, of course, the Chiefs taking on the Bills at 1:25 p.m. PSD. Thank you. Moving on to Amar Gomez. Amar, where is your question? Control F. Amar. Amar says, D-Hop or Tyreek? I'd rather play Tyreek Hill. Thank you. Moving on to a question from Diego Garcia, who says, Jennings, Kittle might be out. No, he will be out. And Jacobs in my flex. I'd rather still play Jacobs. Thank you. Nathan Smith sends in a question. Says, full PPR, sit 1. Debo, Nakua, CD, James Cook, Dobbins, and Pollard. Thanks. Okay. Of those available, if I'm sitting 1, I'm probably sitting Pollard. That's the way that I would go about it, Nathan Smith. I'd rather play every other alternative option. Thank you. Moving on to a question that comes. Okay, so we took care of that. We're good there. Let me make sure I didn't skip anything above. Shakir or Swift? I'd rather play Shakir. 845 live, Shakir. Will Greer or... That's not even Greer. There's not even an R in the name. Like, what am I reading? Full PPR, should I start ETN over Jaden Reed or D-Hop? No, I'd rather play D-Hop and Jaden Reed over him. Okay, guys. For those of you who are here, welcome. Hope you guys are doing well. Again, the rankings are up to date as of this morning. Again, interposition only ranked. Hopefully, I can answer your question in the live chat and or super chat to the best of my ability in the upcoming hour here, or at least 45 minutes. Again, I had seen it multiple times over the course of the day thus far. Many people had asked about underdog potential plays going into today. Again, if you haven't seen the Hidden Gems episode that was posted on Friday, that has a lot of potential entries that are kind of already been put in. But I will go ahead really quickly and just share a couple of the overall plays that I've put in recently, just so we're all on the same page, okay? Now, some of these numbers may not be the same, but this is the way that I've gone about it, okay? So, as of this week, okay, this is one of the plays. Jefferson receptions, Bowers receptions, Shakir receptions, Achane receptions, done, okay? Then we move on to, what just happened there? Okay, one at a time. Bijan receptions, Alvin Kamara, Kenneth Walker, Achane, next. Collins receiving yards, Jefferson receiving yards, Pickens receiving yards. Okay. Jefferson, Achane. Same things from before. I just took it with Jake Paul. Easy clap. Moving on. Bo Nix touchdowns, Brock Purdy touchdowns, Russell Wilson touchdowns. Next. CJ Stroud touchdowns, Lamar Jackson touchdowns, Joe Burrow touchdowns. Next. This was yesterday, last night. Puka Nacua receiving yards. And then DK Metcalf, higher on receptions. Cortland Sutton, higher on receptions. Anytime touchdowns, Kyron and Aaron Jones. Okay. These are some of the plays that I put together as of this weekend. Hopefully they hit. And those are the underdog picks of the week. Thank you. Okay, we continue on. What does Steed Stallion says? Do you still have faith in the Jets defense given the struggles all season long? Okay, so do I trust them as a defensive play? Is that what you're asking? Because as a defensive play for fantasy, because they play against Anthony Richardson, yes. In terms of a play overall, no. I expect Jonathan Taylor to torch their ass. I expect them to go for over 100 and rush and actually have a rushing touchdown. But there's probably a pretty good likelihood in which we're going to get ourselves into a situation where, the Jets defense at least have a solid week. I'm not going to say that they're going to score double-digit points today, but maybe they score like 7, 8 fantasy points, which would be solid. Somebody asked me BTJ or Mostert. Steve, you got to play BTJ there. I'm not playing Mostert, especially coming off of last week. All right, let's see here. Walker sends in a question. It says, drop one, Pittman, Adam Thielen, or MVS. Wow. As of right now, between the three options, if it's me, I'm probably dropping MVS. I don't think I would ever start him. I don't think I'd ever start him. I think it's too sketchy. Unless he saw Rashid Shaheed level of target opportunity, which that means literally, like, if we remember, Rashid Shaheed, which again wasn't that long ago, but maybe we have all forgotten the overall status of what Shaheed was doing. His recent performances, 7, 9, and 11 targets. If we're going to see that level of kind of opportunity share, then I'd say sure. But if we're going to only get 2 or 3 shots down the field and that's the only targets MVS is getting, I'd rather drop him. Thank you. Okay, we move on to a question that comes in from Travis Molina. Thank you, Travis. Travis says, in a PPR, pick 3 between Higgins, Tyreek, Kupp, and Jennings. In a full PPR, my 3 suggestions are Kupp, Tyreek, and Jennings. Thank you. Moving on to Amarmo, who says, PPR, need to drop 1, Thielen, Pittman, Mooney, Dell, BTJ. Out of those available options, Thielen gets the axe. Thank you. Moving on to BBB Bonnie. Bonnie, where's your question? I thought I answered your question earlier. Because you had sent in a question earlier in the live chat that said something about the lowest overall, or the safest floor of production, right? It says, need a flex in a full PPR, Higgins, Montgomery, Pearsall. Who has the highest floor? Yeah, the highest floor is Montgomery. The highest ceiling is Higgins, right? We understand the difference between ceiling and floor, right? Hopefully. But yeah, Montgomery is the floor. Thank you. Let's see here. BT sends in a question. Says, Herbert or Knicks? And Moody or John Parker Romo? I'd rather play Moody, and I'd rather play Knicks. Thank you. Again, the rankings on screen is the way that I'm going to go. Somebody asked, silly question, Tua or Jordan Love? I don't think it's a silly question, Sean, honestly. I could justify it, but I do prefer to play Jordan Love at the moment. All right, let's see here. Ron, we took care of that. Josh says, start 2, Chase Brown, Jacobs, or Aaron Jones. Josh, 007. Play Chase Brown and Josh Jacobs today. Thank you. All right, let's see here. Mike Cuskley sends in a question. Says, pick 2 in a full PPR. Higgins, Jennings, Tillman. If it's my team in a full PPR, I'm playing Jennings and Tillman. Thank you. In a full PPR. Jeff T says, how do I play Reed over Lamb, Jennings, Tillman? Chicago is stout defense. Again, if you don't want to play it, don't play it. I mean, again, I'm not gonna argue with you here. I'm just telling you what I would do. MTD sends in a question. It says PPR, pick 2, James Cook, Devontae Adams, or Sutton. If I'm playing 2 of these 3 in a full PPR, I'm probably playing, well, actually depends on what James Cook does within the receiving game today. If James Cook gets himself the 5 receptions that we're hoping, he'll probably be able to compete. But as of right now, I think I'm just a little bit more confident rolling with Adams and Sutton in that scenario. MTD, thank you. Juana says, start Mike Williams or DJ Moore. I'd rather play DJ Moore. Higgins or Reed? I'd rather play Reed. Supa says, pick 2 in a full PPR. Juju, Spears, White, or Adunze. I'd play Spears and Adunze there, Supa. AJ sends in a question. Says, Quentin Johnston or Waddle in a full PPR. As it currently stands in a full PPR, I do in fact have Jalen Waddle 2 spots ahead of Quentin Johnston. So that's the way I go about it. Thank you. Okay, we took care of that. Standard league. Need 1 flex. Waddle, Pearsall, Madison. I mean, at that point, Ryan, in a standard where you're getting 0 points per reception, geez, dude, that's tough. I don't want to play Madison. It's either between Pearsall and or Waddle. In a standard scoring format, you get 0 points per reception. I'd honestly, if it's my team, I'm going to play Waddle there. Rest of season, Wan'Dale Robinson or Jennings. Yeah, I'd rather play Jennings, or I'd rather have Jennings on roster rest of season. Okay, good to go there. Ron says, I'm down 62 points thanks to Saquon and Hurts. I've got something for this manager. Yeah, pick Russ and Pickens. There we go. All right, good. There we go. Caesar says, hi, Andrew. Pick 2 in the flex half PPR. D-Hop, Warren, Mike Williams, Deontay Johnson, Charbonnet. D-Hop and Warren are my 2 suggestions there, Caesar. Hayden Phoenix says flex Rico, Quentin Johnson, or Ferguson in a PPR. I'd play Quentin Johnson there. AAA says Pitts, Quentin Johnson, Pearsall, or Madison. Pick 2.5 PPR. Probably Pitts and Quentin Johnston are the 2 best AAA. That's the way that I go about it, at least. Blue Jay says, I'm curious why Pitts jumped over Kraft in terms of rankings. Yeah. Look, Kraft is very much so touchdown dependent. I know that I can get the yardage and the receptions I need out of Pitts. I don't want to rely upon the touchdown of Kraft so heavily, especially with the lack of overall target share. And I'm expecting Mooney to get a little bit of a lesser productive week, which will kind of pivot to Pitts getting more utilization within the upcoming performance. So that's why I've kind of adjusted it very so slightly. Nesquick says, hey, Andrew, I have Bass, but wondering why Moody over Romo. Why Moody over Romo? Because the 49ers are one of the highest scoring offenses in the league. I know Moody missed 3 kicks last week. I don't expect that to happen again, ever. So, yeah. Why Moody over Romo? Yeah, I mean, when we're just talking about like one of the highest scoring offenses in the league that's implicated for field goals, I'd assume that they're going to continue to just keep kicking them. They're not going to just shut them down. They're not going to opt elsewhere. And especially with Kittle out, I mean, it just makes it that much more of a solidified option, especially down in the red zone if it stalls. Okay, we move on to a question that comes in from Tony, who says, PPR, would you consider starting Higgins or Myers over Sam Darnold in a Superflex full PPR? No, I would rather play Sam Darnold over both of them. I would consider it, but would I do it? No. I'd much rather play Darnold. Thank you. Johnny Kilroy says, Browns or Saints defense. The rankings are on screen. So in about 10 seconds here, right here, I have the Cleveland Browns as my number 10, and I have the New Orleans Saints as my number 12. So that should answer your question. I prefer the Browns defense as of this week. Thank you, Johnny. But again, both top 12. Moving on to a question that comes in from C. Johnson, 3386, who says PPR 1 wide receiver, 2 flex. We have Ladd, Tillman, Cooper, Pollard, Rico, Ricky Pearsall. Of those available options, C. Johnson, 3386. Tillman is number 1 at wide receiver. Within your 2 flex positions, I am playing. Let me see where I have Pollard in comparison to Amari Cooper in a full PPR. Pollard. Okay, yeah. So this is the way that I would go about it. In a full PPR, I'm playing Tillman, I am playing Ladd, and I am playing Pollard. Thank you. Moving on to Gabriel Martin, who says, I need to start an RB2 and a flex between J.K. Dobbins, Ramondre Stevenson, Jawan Jennings, Mooney, and Shakir. Okay, so it's a standard scoring format. Considering the scoring format, I'm playing Jawan Jennings within your flex, and I'm playing J.K. Dobbins as your starting running back. Thank you, Gabriel. I appreciate it. All right, what does it say? Is Isaiah likely playing? I mean, somebody said earlier that he's going to be active. I don't expect him to impact Mark Andrews that much, guys. Not at all. Waddle, estimate, or BTJ in a PPR flex? I'd rather play Waddle there in the end gaming. Maurice Ellington in the chat says McConkey or Cook for a PPR flex. If that's because you said McConkey or Cooks, Brandon Cooks is not playing. So if it's McConkey or James Cook, I'm playing James Cook. Donald Smith says Tillman or Jennings. I'd rather play Tillman. All right, scrolling back up, we had a question that came in from Adam W. who says Pitts, Kraft, BTJ, Taysom. Pick 2. I play Pitts and Kraft. Thank you. Frauden sends in a question. Frauden says Smitty, Kyron, and Tracy for Mixon and Cup. Trade fell through. Instead, I traded Smitty and Kyron for Pickens and Connor. Beautiful. Okay, I don't even have an issue with that at all. Fantastic. I'll remind my team in the comments. No, I mean, look, I don't even think I need to know your team. As a whole, I would take that deal as well. I'd rather have Connor Pickens the rest of the season. So I think I'm good with that. All right, moving on to a question from Ismail Delgado, who says, PPR, Herbert, Russell Wilson, Stroud, who should I start? If it's my... Okay, so again, like I've said before, guys, welcome. Hope you guys are doing well on this wonderful Sunday. But like I've said before, and I'll say again, the rankings right here, that filter, are here for a reason, okay? I currently have CJ Stroud above all other quarterbacks that you mentioned there. So it'd be Stroud number 1, Wilson 2, Herbert 3. Thank you. KB sends in a question. Says London or Tillman in the flex. I'll take London there for now. And then also Knicks or Herbert. I prefer Knicks. Thank you. All right, let's hear. Smitty in the chat says Ladd or Quentin Johnston rest of season. I need to drop one. I'd rather have Lad rest the season. Justin says, bro, full PPR, Puka or Kyron in the flex? I'd rather play Puka in the full PPR. Scott in the chat says, Aaron Jones or JSN in a full PPR? I'd rather play Aaron Jones this week. Thank you. Somebody asked Fairbairn or Boswell. Again, the rankings are on screen. You'll see it in about 10 seconds here. The kicker rankings will pop up. I have Fairbairn ahead of Boswell. Looking at the rest of your team, Frauden, JD5, Henry, Kyron, Teagan, Smitty. So again, you traded Smitty and Kyron for Pickens and Connor, right? So it would take place next week or it would happen this week. Either I would assume it happens next week, but either way, perfectly fine with it. All right, moving on. We had a question that came in from Zain Bakri, who says, Jaden Reed or Juwan Jennings full PPR? As it currently stands in a full PPR scoring format, I have Jaden Reed below Juwan Jennings. So Juwan Jennings is one spot ahead of him. Number 18 compared to number 19. So Juwan Jennings would be the preferred in a full PPR scoring format. Thank you, Bakri. Barkey? My bad. Can't get right. Sends in a question. Says, which wide receivers 4 should I play? You mean which 4 wide receivers, right? You meant, okay, anyway. Debo, Nico Collins, Kupp, Garrett Wilson, Justin Jefferson, Brian Thomas Jr. Okay. So of the available options you have here, can't get right. Justin Jefferson is number 1. Nico Collins is number 2. Debo Samuel is number 3. And under the assumption that we are playing in a, let's see here. So this is the way I go about it. I probably go with Garrett Wilson 4. I would. So Justin Jefferson, Nico Collins, Debo Samuel, Garrett Wilson. Those are the 4 that I play out of the 6. Thank you. Amar Gomez says, Tillman or D-Hop in the flex? I'd rather play Tillman. Thank you. Tingles in the chat says, Dobbins or Ridley in a PPR? In a full PPR, I think at that point, let me see here. I'm pretty sure I have Ridley ahead of him, but let me confirm this just so I can cross-reference Ridley or Dobbins. Yeah, I have Ridley ahead of Dobbins in a full PPR, so that's the way I'd go about it. Moving on to Thode sends in a question. Says Dobbins, Cook, or Jennings in the flex. Depends on format, purely. If it's a full PPR, give me Jennings. If it's a half PPR, give me James Cook. Thank you. Dior Kev sends in a question. Says 6 points per touchdown, Love or Herbert? I'd rather have Justin Herbert. Thank you. Carlos Laurie sends in a question. Says, I'm in a pickle. Baker's on a bye. Do I start Caleb or Levis in a full PPR? First place on the line. Oof, wow. My back, I almost have I have kidney pain striking as you ask that question. As of right now, I have Caleb Williams ranked higher than Will Levis this week. That's all I can say. If I speak on it more, my back's going to start to hurt. I might have back spasms. Rusty Wright sends in a question. Says, clear and cut Aubrey and scoop Romo. Yeah, correct. I mean, again, you're only going to have Romo until Reichard comes back, and then you're going to have to swap off of Romo. Thank you. All right, moving on to a question that says, Tyreek or Adams? Yeah, I'd rather play Tyreek Hill, LOL. Easy E says, sound, question mark? Easy, turn up your volume, brother. Stop muting it. All right, let's see here. We have a question that came in from Bullyface, who says, sup, Andrew? My week question. Reed or Jacoby Myers in a full PPR? Let me see what I have ranked higher in a full PPR. As of right now, I have Reed ahead of Myers by 2 spots. Thank you. We move on to a question that comes in from Sebastian Alex. What's up, Sebastian? It says, I have Justin Jefferson. No, sorry, that's not. When you guys put Jets, it makes me think of J-Jet. But anyway, I've got Jets and Saints. Starting JT, pivot to Saints? No. Look, here's the thing. Okay. I'm trying to play the best players across the board. I believe that the Saints are going to outscore the Saints. I believe that the Jets are going to outscore the Saints in fantasy. Therefore, because of my belief, I will not suggest that you make the swap. Out of your peace of mind, if you want to swap by getting rid of the Jets because you are purely only rooting for JT today, I understand it. But in this circumstance, no. I am playing the Jets defense over the Saints. Swift or Zay Flowers in the flex? I'd rather have Zay Flowers, Jay. Ryan Lawrence says, trade question. I have Christian McCaffrey. Should I trade away Waddle, Madison, or Deontay Johnson for Mason? Yeah, any of them. Not any of them. If I was going to trade away one, I would trade away Deontay Johnson. But quite frankly, if I was in your position, Ryan Lawrence, I'd rather go pick up Isaac Guerrero off of the waivers because that's the handcuff immediate. All right, continuing on, we had a question that comes in from Ash. Ash says, hi, Andrew. In a 10-team PPR, Njoku or Judy in the flex? I prefer to play Njoku, I believe. Let me check. Njoku. I mean, I'm pretty sure I settled this earlier. Yeah. Njoku is my number 50. Jerry Judy is my number 55. Njoku's preferred. Thank you. Moving on to Matthew Wallace, who says at half PPR, Stevenson, Shakir, or Reed. Out of all three of those, I'm playing Shakir. Thank you. Moving on to DeAndre Warren, who says PPR, Romeo Dobbs, Tucker Kraft, Dawson Knox, or Gus Edwards. In a PPR scoring format, I have Dawson Knox ranked the highest. Thank you. Football says full PPR, Jamison Williams or Jerry Judy. I'd rather play Jerry Judy in a full PPR. Thank you. M. Leasy says Andrews or Quentin Johnston in a half PPR. I'd rather play Mark Andrews there. Luis Garcia says Aubrey for Romo. Yeah, I would drop Aubrey for Romo. Absolutely. Nash says crazy question. How do you feel about Turpin in the league? In a league where you get points per return yards. Also, did you answer my flex question from earlier? I don't know if I answered your question, your flex question, Nash. I'd probably say I didn't, but if I could, I will. But as of right now, if I look at Turpin's yardage in terms of returns, Kevontae Turpin this season on a per game average in terms of return yardage, yes, in a league in which you get 1 point every 10 return yards, Kevontae Turpin is a must start every single week. Every single week. So, yeah, play him. If you can, Nash, just type your question again in the chat, whatever your flex question was. Let's see here. We had a question that came in from Trenton Jesse, who says PPR, Pollard or DJ Moore. I'd rather play Pollard, honestly. Raul Salas says Tyreek Hill or Montgomery in a PPR. I'd rather play Tyreek Hill. Thank you. T. Higgins or Cedric Tillman. I'd rather play Tillman. Full PPR, JSN or Hopkins. I'd rather play JSN. Would you start Tyreek or Swift or J.K. Dobbins in the flex? I'd rather start Tyreek out of the bunch. Tyreek number 1, J.K. 2, Swift 3. Marcus Wixom says full PPR flex, start Dell, Downs, or ETN. I'll take Dell in a full PPR. Okay, Metcalf or Mark Andrews in a full PPR. Donald play Metcalf. Okay, I have to make sure that's good to go. I got to make sure I don't have any Kittles left in my lineup just in case. Let me just check really quickly. Okay, where are we at here? We're good to go. We're good to go. Okay, we're fine. All right, continuing on. We had, why is Hunter Henry so low? He had a great point per game with, yeah. I mean, look, last week the issue was that Austin Hooper played far more than he should have. If they're going to continue to utilize Austin Hooper in the facets in which they did last week, which is a very high likelihood because considering he played well. Again, last week he had the most overall offensive snaps he's played all season long. And if Austin Hooper is going to continue to dig into his overall workload of opportunity, that is not something that I'm interested in kind of toying with. That is why Hunter Henry is kind of dipped a little bit in that circumstance. Estimate or JSN in the flex? Drewski, play JSN. All right, Benin says, Andrew, Reed or Tillman, half PPR. I'm playing Tillman there. Thank you. Nathan says, Najee Harris or Travis Etienne or Rico Dowdle in a full PPR. In a full PPR, Nathan, I'm playing Travis Etienne there. Keeks sends in a question. Keeks, thank you very much. Says, in a full PPR, I can't decide who to pick up between Cedric Tillman and Jawan Jennings. Is it time to kick Xavier Worthy off the team? Yes. Xavier Worthy should have been off your team 3 weeks ago. Now, who you're picking up between those two, in terms of long-term value, both of them are relatively strong, but I prefer to have Tillman. Thank you. MVS or Lockett in the flex? Austin, I'd rather have Lockett. CeeDee Lamb or Jaden Reed? I'd rather have Jaden Reed, especially considering CeeDee Lamb's questionable for Monday night's game. Let's do this really quickly. Okay. So again, for those of you who are joining us, welcome. Hope you guys are doing well. Rankings right here, up to date as of this morning. There's no Kittle. These are the rankings. So if you ask me, would I play Burrow or would I play Justin Herbert? I'm playing Burrow, right? The rankings are by number for a reason. Thank you. Adam Amar sends in a question. Adam, hope you're doing well. Says, Mooney for DJ Moore. I have Myers, JJ, Pickles. You mean Pickens, right? 7-2. So are you asking me if I would trade Mooney for DJ Moore rest of the season? I don't think I would. Considering what the iteration of that offense looks like, unless they're going to make a complete 180 kind of turnaround, I would just rather have Mooney rest of the season at the moment, Adam. Chris Owens sends in a question. Chris says full PPR, Titans defense or Jets defense. Again, the rankings were up on screen. Jets are preferred. I don't want to play the Titans in any scenario. I mean, again, I understand why you would, because again, there's a possibility in which Minnesota and Sam Darnold throw a couple picks. But as of right now, I'd rather play the Jets against Anthony Richardson. Thank you. Okay, Chase Brown or Aaron Jones or James Cook. I would rather have Chase Brown over the bunch, regardless of scoring format, half PPR or full PPR. Elijah Moore or Alexander Madison. I'd rather play Alexander Madison there. Estime or Pearsall in a half PPR. I'm okay going Pearsall there. I don't have an issue with that. Cook, Sutton, or Jennings in the flex. I play Sutton there. Dowdle or Waddle half PPR. I'll take Waddle. Matthew Wallace sends in a question. Matthew, where's your question though? Let's see. Control F. Wallace. Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. Control F. Wallace. Matthew Wallace says in a half PPR. Oh, this was your earlier question though. I mean, I told you to play Shakir. What's your next question, Matthew Wallace? Says Pearsall or Quentin Johnston half PPR rest of season. That one's a little bit more difficult to predict. I would probably I'd say Quentin Johnston for right now. I don't think, I don't expect Kittle to be out every week henceforth, right? I expect him to be like 1 week and then he'll be back next week. Okay, we took care of that. Okay, what does it say? Since Kittle is out, do I play Estime or Brian Robinson Jr. in a half PPR? I'd rather play Estime there. Thank you. Okay, Chris Rosado says pick 1.5 PPR. Pearsall, Quentin Johnston, or Schuster. Out of those three, I'm playing Quentin Johnston as the preferred. Thank you. Moody or Bates. Again, the rankings are right here. Let's reset it really quickly, just so we're all on the same page. Okay. See it right now? Moody's number 1. Bates is number 3. Thank you. All right, we continue on. Someone said Goff or Richardson. I'd rather play Goff. Chubb, London, or Reed. I'd rather play London. Chris Rosado, we took care of you. Travis sends in a question. Thank you, Travis. Travis says Kelsey's my tight end. Andrews, Dell, or Ladd McConkey in the flex. What's your scoring from that, Travis? If you're playing in a, let's see here. What does my full PPR rankings have? Andrews in comparison to Dell. If you're playing in a half PPR, you kind of have to play Andrews. If you're playing in a full PPR, I could justify playing Dell over him. All right, Livewire sends in a question. Nothing attached to it, though. Livewire, where art thou? Livewire. Livewire says, really struggling. Taysom or Knox and or Disley. Okay, so if you're playing in a standard league where you get 0 points per reception, I am playing Taysom Hill. If you're playing in a half PPR or full PPR, I'm playing Dawson Knox there. Thank you. London or Reed, I'll take London. Again, rankings are on screen. We move on to a question that comes in from, let's see here, Ziggy Lee, who says, Superflex, do I start JSN over Minshew? Yes, you start. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, that we'll take. Flotation, or sorry, not flotation. Floating says Pollard or Tillman standard scoring. Even in a standard scoring league, I'm playing Tillman there. Thank you. Brody says Madison or Warren. I'll take Madison there. Go Blue 402 says Tillman, Flowers, or Shakir. Pick 2. If I'm playing 2 of those 3, I'm playing Tillman and I'm playing Shakir. Somebody asked BTJ or Najee Harris in a full PPR. I'd rather have BTJ. Somebody asked Kincaid or Taysom Hill rest of season. It depends on Kincaid's injury. I have no whereabouts as to what his future upside and or outlook looks like. I'm not a doctor. I could not tell you. Moving on to a question from Auntie Slayer who says, with Pacheco playing, bump down Hunt. Pacheco is not playing this week. I don't know where you got that from. But that is, yeah, you I think you got tricked. You got like Barry McCocknerd on the interwebs. Rusty Wright sends in a question and says, which kicker rest the season? Aubrey, Sanders, Cardi, Romo, or Moody? I'd rather have Moody rest the season above all. Thank you. Moving on to a question that comes in from 808 All Day who says, full PPR, 1 point per rush. Pick 1 wide receiver, 1 flex. We have Ladd McConkey. We have Tank Dell. We have DeAndre Hopkins and Estime. Okay. If you get 1 point per rushing attempt, okay, you are playing Estime objectively within your flex position. Estime is going to run the ball 15 times. So you just get 15 points for free? That's stupid. I mean, that is absolutely egregious. Anyway, we'll take advantage of it. The 2 starters that I'm going to suggest, though, are going, I'll go D-Hop and Estime in this scenario, full PPR. Actually, let me check. Do I have D-Hop ahead of Tank Dell? I do. 1 spot ahead. Thank you. E. Jesse sends in a question. Says in a full PPR. Oop, that's not what I wanted to do. Okay. Jesse. Hopefully my YouTube doesn't crash right now. It looks like it's about to. It just crashed. What a classic. What a fucking classic. Okay. All right. Jesse says, if Kittle sits, which he will, I have to grab a tight end. I have to drop Downs, Mooney, BTJ. Who would you drop knowing you might not get back on waivers? Okay. Of those three, who would I be willing to drop knowing that I might not get them back? It would be Downs. That would be the one that I can live with losing. That's the way I go about it. Thank you, Jesse. J Card 429 says in a 14-team PPR, okay, we have Ford, Mostert, Waddle, Mooney, Knox, one running back, one flex. Okay, in a full PPR, Mostert or Ford, I have Mostert one spot ahead of Jerome Ford. So I play Mostert at running back. And then within your flex position, between Mooney, Waddle, and Knox, let me check where I have Mooney in comparison to Knox. I think that's really just the close-up. I have Mooney ahead of Knox. So Mooney's the play. Mooney and Mostert. Thank you, J-Card. Carlos Laurie says potential trade. They want Mooney and Goff for Dell and Jaden Daniels. Full PPR rest of season. Should I proceed? I would rather... Okay, so here's the issue that I have. I think Jaden Daniels' rib injury is considerable enough to where that is the reason primarily why he has struggled for fantasy as of late. Considering that, I don't think I want to make this move. If he can get healthy in the not-so-distant future, sure. If you're looking potentially just for the fantasy playoffs, I don't mind this trade. But if we're looking for still trying to make the fantasy playoffs with an upcoming bye week for Jaden Daniels, I'm not so interested in making that move, especially also with an upcoming bye week for Dell. Thank you. Gildan Warrior says, I have Dobbins. Should I trade him? And if so, for who? James Conner, Bucky Irving, Tyrone Tracy. Thank you. Those are the three that I prefer out of the group of potential running backs so you can go 1-for-1 with, maybe. Cody Shannon sends in a question, says, full PPR, Kamara or Debo in the flex? Let me check who I have ranked higher. As it currently stands, in a full PPR format, I have Kamara ahead of Debo. Thank you. Moving on, we have a question from Cody Shannon as a follow-up. Says, Hunt, Higgins, or Tillman in the flex? I have Cedric Tillman ahead of the bunch. Thank you. Yeah. Wait, hold up. Wait a minute. That's half PPR. Sorry, I got to go to full PPR. Cedric Tillman is ahead of the bunch. Cedric Tillman is 3 spots ahead of Kareem Hunt, so it is relatively close in my mind in that circumstance, but I do prefer Tillman there. Cody Shannon, thank you. All right, we move on to a question that came in from Andre Yoshi Mitsu, who says, half PPR bench one, Debo, Puka, or Brees? In a half PPR, I am... Oh my God. Why do you have to ask me such horribly difficult questions? As it currently stands, I have, okay, legitimately, in a half PPR, this is how I have it ranked. 15 is Puka, 16 is Debo, 17 is Brees Hall. Brees Hall takes the bench, legitimately. I don't see him playing over the other two in my league. I'd love to play him, but, I mean, again, you're in a position where, yeah, I prefer the other two options, quite frankly. They have stronger floors and higher upsides. Moving on to John War, who says, Andrew, thank you for the rankings. I appreciate it. Thank you, John. All right, Honest Abe sends in a question. Says, PPR, have Christian McCaffrey, Chase Brown, and now Pacheco is returning. Next week, you mean, right? Not this week. He's obviously been designated inactive, right? Unless I'm getting trolled here. So I traded away Aaron Jones for Tillman. Okay, interesting. The only wide receiver I have, okay. I mean, look, trading for Tillman, very much so a risk. I would have rather gone after guys like Higgins or gone after guys like Mike Evans or something of that volume or variable. But hopefully, this trade will pan out for you. Now, as for your question, only wide receiver I have better is Tank Dell JS. Okay, yeah. So, I mean, look, it is definitely an upgrade at wide receiver in the not-too-distant future. Do I love the idea of making this trade? No, because upcoming, you have a Chase Brown bye week. But again, you'll have Pacheco to fill in. So, ultimately, if Tillman continues to play as well as he has, you'll have no problem here. And you'll hear no excuses or complaints from me. So, as long as he continues the ball out, which I expect him to do so, I mean, I've seen him play, and he... Listen, I've talked about this on the live streams that we do every night over the course of this entire last couple of weeks here. I've watched so much Tillman film as of late. I think he's the real deal. Thank you. Katie X sends in a question. Says, in a 10-team full PPR, hey Andrew, which tight end should I go with, Knox, Henry, or Ferguson? I prefer Knox. Thank you. We Buy Home sends in a question. Says, in a non-PPR, start Knox or Taysom Hill? Like I mentioned earlier, in a non-PPR format, I will play Taysom Hill. Thank you. Moving on to Anthony C. Says Ridley or Shakir playing a half a point per reception. I'd play Shakir there. Thank you. Alrighty, let's go ahead. Let's do that. Okay, we're almost there. I'm Barl sends in a question. Says Gibbs to get Jacobs in a 12-man PPR locked in for playoffs. Sure. Yeah, I don't have an issue with that. I'll take Jacobs there rest of the season. Cool. Okay, Kyle Pitts or Taysom Hill, says Ozil. De Leon. Kyle Pitts there. Football says, up to week 16, best defense. I have Vikings. Thinking Cardinals play maybe week 15, 16. Correct. You are absolutely correct there, Football. S in the chat says, Pearsall, BTJ, or Pollard, PPR. Already starting Jennings, Adams, and Wilson. Let me see where I have Pollard in comparison to the bunch. I think I'm probably playing Pollard there. Yeah, I am. I'm playing Pollard there. All right, let's see here. Nickel sends in a question. Says Hawkinson or Tank Dell. I'd rather have Hawkinson today. Alex Glass says PPR. Running backs are Brown, Jacobs, and Hunt. Wide receivers are CeeDee Lamb, Wilson, and Ridley. Who do I start and who do I flex? Okay, so if you're in a 2 running back, 2 wide receiver, 1 flex league, Alex Glass, I would start Chase Brown and Josh Jacobs as your 2 starting running backs. I'd play Garrett Wilson and Calvin Ridley as your 2 starting wide receivers. And to avoid all centralized risk, I would play Kareem Hunt in the flex and I'd bench CeeDee Lamb in order to ensure that I don't mess up and have him miss tomorrow and screw me over. Thank you. Josh sends in a question. Says full PPR, Tank Dell or Najee Harris? I'd rather have Tank Dell. Thank you. Somebody asked Debo or Puka. I'd rather play Debo in a half PPR. I'd rather play Puka in a full PPR. Thank you. Kraft or Madison in a flex half PPR. Let me see where I have them ranked accordingly. Kraft or Madison. Where is Kraft? I have Kraft ahead of Madison in a half PPR by a considerable margin. I don't really trust Madison that much unless I'm desperate. Dobbins or Ramondre? Anthony, I'd play Dobbins. Next year, Laporta has to be resurrected. What a letdown. I mean, I don't know what Laporta... Here's the thing. Depending on how the Lions season goes this year, they're either going to lose their offensive coordinator, Ben Johnson, to a head coaching job, or they're going to keep him and, Laporta will be lost. So we'll have to wait and see. Hopefully they get a new OC and hopefully he wakes up. Even though Ben Johnson's been great, I need Laporta to be of value. Like, geez Louise. Let's see here. We had a question in the chat. Says full PPR, Hunter Henry or Taysom Hill? I'd rather have Hunter Henry there, Murph. Murph! Don't let him leave, Murph! Murph! Your boy says Dowdle or Demario Douglas. I'd rather have Dowdle there. Tano Martin, what's up? Says, hey, bro. PPR flex, Hunt or Mooney? I'd rather have Hunt there. Aaron Jones or Chase Brown? Allen, I'd rather have Chase Brown 10 times out of 10. Okay. Pretty good to go. Okay, so we're about 11 minutes away from the kickoff of Week 11, Sunday. Hope you guys are doing well. Again, the rankings over here are up to date as of this morning. So if you have any questions interpositionally, somebody just asked Higgins or Adams. Again, Adams sits right here. Higgins was like all the way down there. Higgins would be the preferred even in a half or full PPR. It's not too much of a difference. Adams would be the preferred, excuse me. Two Strains sends in a question. Says PPR flex, Waddle, Moore, Michael Williams, or Juju Smith-Schuster this week. Out of those available options, Waddle is my preferred. Thank you. Pollock's World of Entertainment says, I was offered ETN and Adunze for Jaden Reed. Nope. I will take Jaden Reed to the bank all the way to the fantasy playoffs. Thank you. Omar G sends in a question. Says, full PPR Madison or Esteve? I'd prefer to play Madison there because of the receiving upside. Thank you. ETN or Tank Dell in a PPR? JP, I'd play Dell there. Brock Wright or Troy Franklin in a PPR? Ben, I'd... Look, here's the thing about Troy Franklin. He does not get enough opportunity. Even in a good matchup like today, I'd assume that Devon Vele is going to get more receptions within the upcoming matchup. So in this circumstance, I'd honestly rely... considering I'm looking at the overall reception counts of Troy Franklin the last 3 games, 1-1-1. If he's only getting 1 reception per game, I would assume that if we're going to see Brock Wright catch the ball once, maybe it'll be for a touchdown. So I'll lean in that direction. All right. Hopper sends in a question. Says, Lamb or JSN? At this point, just play JSN. Avoid the risk. Where are we at? Dell or... Okay, we took care of that one. Hall or Tillman in a PPR? That is a great question. Let's see where we have them ranked. In a full PPR scoring format, I have Breece Hall ahead of Tillman. Thank you. Javonte Williams or Mike Williams in a full PPR? Kelvin, you are playing with fire, and you're going to get burnt here one way or the other. I don't think either are solid plays. If I had to play one, I'd play Mike Williams. Hunt, Flowers, Reed, Tillman. What order? Depends on format, Seth. Let's say you play in a half PPR. It'd be Hunt 1, Tillman 2, Flowers 3, Reed 4. Okay, Najee or JMO in a PPR. I'd honestly play JMO there, 305 Raider. IDK man says Pearsall, Estime, or Taysom Hill in a half PPR. I'm comfortable going Pearsall there. Charlie Forrest says Dobbins or Higgins in a full PPR. Let me see where I have Dobbins in comparison. As of right now, I have Higgins ahead of him in a full PPR. Toby says defense question mark? Again, if you have a defensive question, we have rankings filtering on screen in terms of my top 12 defenses. Okay. We took care of that. Nakua or Cup in a full PPR? I'd rather have Nakua. Standard League, MVS, Romeo Dobbs, Estime, or Marvin Harrison, or Mike Williams. Pereira. I would play Estime there in a Standard League where you get 0 points per reception. LJ says PPR spot Charbonnet or Justice Hill. I'd rather play Charbonnet. I have Connor Tracy on by. Yeah, I'd rather play Charbonnet there. Brian Weiss sends in a question, says, it's tough. Tillman or CeeDee Lamb? I'd rather play Tillman this week. I don't think it's that tough in my mind. Aaron Robles says, Andrew, in a half PPR, would you start Bateman, Pearsall, DJ Moore, or Addison? As of right now, the way that I have it ranked currently in a half PPR format is Pearsall 1, Bateman 2, DJ Moore 3, Addison 4. Thank you. JRR Tokens says, half PPR, Adunze or Pittman? I prefer to play Adunze this week. Thank you. Madison or Estime? I mean, again, it depends on format. I have, again, the rankings on screen for half PPR. In a full PPR, Madison's even more valuable. Let's see here. Tillman or Higgins? I'd rather play Tillman. CeeDee Lamb or Nick Chubb? At that point, I'm willing to risk it and play CeeDee Lamb. Non-PPR, Ridley, Hopkins, Najee. Pick 2. I will still play Ridley and Hopkins there. Hi, Andrew. Half PPR. Okay, we already took care of that question. We took care of that one. Why do you have Njoku now ranked ahead of Kraft? Yeah, I mean, look, the projection model leads me in the direction. If I was to break it down into the exact reasons why, mainly it's because I expect for that game between the Chicago Bears and the Green Bay Packers to be a one-sided affair relatively quickly in comparison to Jameis Winston on the opposite side throwing the ball 40 to 50 times today, which will give more opportunity to his receivers effectively. Jaden Reed or Ladd McConkey? I'd rather play Jaden Reed. John sends in a question. Thank you, John. PPR flex, Najee Harris, Pearsall, Pittman, or Hawkinson? Hawkinson's the play there, John. Thank you. All right, guys, I think we've taken care of it. If you guys haven't yet already, and if you guys can do me a solid favor, I know it takes literally zero effort on your end, but you might not want to do it, but I would ask you to reconsider. If you guys could click the like button down below, that'd be greatly appreciated. Again, before you leave today's stream, that's all I ask. Thank you. Mark Andrews or Kraft? I'd rather have Mark Andrews there. Kelvin, am I screwed between Mike and Javonte? The options is Spears. I'll take Spears there, to be honest, Kelvin. I'd rather play Spears. I played against Saquon. Do I play Dowdle or Pop Douglas? I'd play Dowdle. BTJ or Pearsall? I'd rather play Pearsall. Just to be safe with it. Ingram or Kraft? Ingram. Christian Watson or Jalen Warren? I'd rather play Jalen Warren. Jimmy Richardson sends in a question. Thank you, Jimmy. Says, do I hold on to Kareem Hunt? Who would be a fair trade? He's not a fair trade in the future. Unless you trade him right now, he is not a fair trade. Because again, henceforth, going forward, he is a handcuff. So he is as valuable as someone like Braylon Allen or Zach Charbonnet. So he won't have that much variable value. Maybe he's as valuable as Mostert. But again, going into the future, you just hold on to him and see what he does. Maybe he gets a split backfield because of how well he's played. I doubt it, but maybe. Moving on to a question that comes in from Thowd, who says, Hill, Jennings, Hill, and Higgins, pick 2. Okay, so you mentioned 3 players. You said pick 2. Got it. I am playing Jennings and Hill in a full PPR. In a half PPR, I'm playing Higgins and Hill. Next question, pick 2 between Dobbins, Cook, David Montgomery, pick 2. I'm playing Cook and I am playing David Montgomery. Thank you. All right, what does that say? Jay Williams or Estime? If Jay Williams is Jameson, I will take Jameson Williams. Actually, yeah, if Jay Williams is Jameson, I'll take Jameson. If it's Javonte, I'm playing Audric Estime. Henry or Taysom in a full PPR? Ricky Retro, I'm playing Henry. Again, BTJ Pearsall risk with Lamb. No, I'd risk it with Lamb there, Ethan, to be totally honest. Alrighty, what else do we have here? Stroud or Wilson? Again, rankings are on screen. I prefer Stroud. We had a question follow-up from... Okay, we took care of Brian Weiss. Oh, yeah, this was another follow-up from Brian Weiss, right? Yeah, okay. Brian Weiss says, Lamb, Cooper, estimate Downs, Addison. I'll play Lamb there very comfortably. Full go. Flowers or CeeDee Lamb? I'll play Flowers there. Cedric Tillman or Ricky Pearsall? Cedric Tillman. Drake, May, Tua, Rodgers, or who should I play? I'd play Tua there, Luis. You grow, I grow, says Cedric Wilson. You mean Cedric Wilson, not Cedric Tillman, huh? Okay, you're playing MVS. Actually, no, it's a full PPR. You grow, I grow. I played Pop Douglas there. Steal your vibe. It says pick two. Tillman, Jennings, D-Hop. I'll place Tillman and Jennings there. Thank you. Dobbs or Judy? Adrian, play Judy. Jones or Jacobs? I'd rather play Josh Jacobs today. Kraft or Knox in a PPR? I have Knox ahead of him in a full PPR scoring format. Frank says full PPR, David Montgomery or Aaron Jones. In a full PPR, I currently have Aaron Jones ahead of David Montgomery. I keep it as such. 2-minute drill, correct. We got a 2-minute offense, but we're not going to be like we're not going to be like the Washington Commanders and run quarterback draw and halfback draw on the 2-minute drill. Like, fuck it. I'm just, okay. Anyway, let's see here. Pearsall, Pollard, or Johnston, full PPR. At that point, I'm okay going with Johnston. Johnny. Ultra Lord, we took care of you. Sag says everyone but you, Kittle. Yeah. Rexton says PPR pick 3. BTJ, Tillman, Pop Douglas, London, CD. Yeah. Rexton, play CD, London, and Tillman. Thank you. Bob Castle says Cooper or Bateman. I'll play Cooper there. Kelvin says Mahomes or Purdy. I'd rather play Purdy today. Toby Sexton says defensive question for season and today. Drop Los Angeles Chargers for Saints or Green Bay. I'd rather pick up Green Bay. Thank you. Ingram or Kraft. I'd rather play Ingram. Estimate or BTJ full PPR. Considering the PPR format, give me BTJ. Chubb or Hopkins. I'd rather play Hopkins right now, honestly. PPR Pollard or Mooney. Give me Mooney. Moving on to the next one, we have sit Ridley, Downs, or Hopkins. If I'm sitting one of those three, King Wrecker, I'm going to sit Downs. Xavier sends in a super chat. Thank you, Xavier. I appreciate it. Xavier says, if Amari plays, do I play Shakir and Amari Cooper or Ladd? And which, okay, yeah, as of right now, if I was in your position in a full PPR, I'd play Ladd and Shakir. Ultra Lord had a follow-up question. So he had said, Kraft or Knox? I'll take Knox there. But then your next question is, I want to drop Knox to stash Kansas City. I don't mind that. Drop Knox, play Kraft this week, stash Kansas City for next week and the week after. I think that's a great idea. We move on to Brian R. Thank you, Brian. It says pick 4. Puka, St. Brown, DK, Sutton, Shakir. Okay. Puka, St. Brown, Sutton, Shakir. In a full PPR. If you're playing in a half PPR standard, it's Puka, St. Brown, DK, Sutton. So DK and Shakir are the toss-ups. In a full PPR, I'll take Shakir. In a half PPR standard, I'll take DK. Thank you. Okay, I think we got it. Did you get Ultra Lord? Yeah, I got you, Ultra Lord. You're good to go. That's a great move. We dropping Mason yet? I dropped him 3 weeks ago, brother. I'm telling you. If you want to hold him, you can hold him, but that's up to your prerogative as to whether you have the bench spot to do so. Hello, would you be trying to play Shakir instead of London against Denver? If you're playing in a full PPR, I could justify it. In a half, I can't. Are we dropping? Okay, we took care of that. All right, guys. Thank you. I appreciate y'all. Much love. I'll be back tomorrow talking about waiver wire potential pickups. Outside of that, much love. I appreciate y'all. Hopefully we have a wonderful Sunday with a plethora of fantastic performances and exciting games. Hopefully we get healthy players. Outside of that, have a great rest of your Sunday. I will be back tomorrow. I am queuing the one and only Double Helix. Have a great rest of your day. Much love. I'll see you guys. Peace.